No music intro. Two reasons. I'm starting already pretty late, and also for the second day in a row, can't get can't get my music playing through my uh music app on my computer for some reason, but I can send it to my phone or my speaker, like my living room speaker for some reason. But also I'm starting late. I'm pretty sure I just need to restart my computer, but I've yet to do that since yesterday. So to like maybe see if that would fix it. Apologies for being late. I had things to attend to, or things to not attend to. I don't know how else to put it. I was doing other things, and then had to. But I still wanted to come on tonight, so starting a little later probably won't be as long of a normal, obviously Umineko Saturday stream. So apologies for that. It'll be this, won't it? Hi, how are you doing? Hope you're doing fine. Hope you had a great day. I'm also coming in hot here, so I'm trying to organize everything on my PC here and my setup and all. How'd my week go? Pretty good. Well, busy. Busy week. But what else? What else is new? I feel comfortable enough revealing part of what I was doing tonight before, other than being on. So I was watching a live music performance today at some point. And then I was honestly, if other things lined up, I was going to start streaming before it happened. And then I was going to literally pause the recording and then just stay on stream while I watched it. Because I wasn't like attending a live thing. I was watching a live thing. And I was just going to watch it on stream. But then I would pause the recording part. So my idea all today was like, oh, it's going to be like in between the time. It would have been this awkward like time jump in the YouTube pod. Oh, also desktop audio. What the hell? Why is it all the way up? My bad. But I didn't have to do that because other things were happening as well. This doesn't feel right. I did the wrong thing. There we go. So yeah, I don't know how late we're gonna go tonight, but probably not super late. I probably still don't want to go super late, even though I am. Also, the title of the stream right now is just episode 7 more like, and then it just ends. That's the real reason why I'm starting late. I literally sat at my desk for 2 hours trying to think of a joke and couldn't do it. And then I was like, well, I gotta go live at some point. It took me 2 hours to come up with a joke and I still couldn't do it. It's so unfortunate. All right. So where were we? Last stream on Tuesday, we finished episode 6. We began episode 7. Not much of it. New people. Leon. And something with a W. Wallard, Waylon, Willard, Wilfred. One of those. Willard. Is it Willard? Not Williard. Willard H. Wright, says chat. So yeah, they were introduced. Is episode 7 gonna end up turning into like a buddy cop type? Not buddy cop. That might be a bad term to give it, but like they're very clearly different personality types clashing But it seems like this is going to be an episode heavily focused on them, which is very interesting to get in our second to last episode. It would be extremely funny if Umineko did something very funny and, like, very early in the episode killed him off for something somehow, and then just brings back in Battler somehow. It's just like... Will needs to find out who killed Beatrice or Byrne. Yeah, so the whole situation seems to be that Byrne has now effectively replaced Angie's place next to Featherine Aurora. That's a joke. Look at me retaining jokes. How Bernie can't say Aurora. Look at me. I'm retaining the jokes. Look at my memory. It's working. My brain. The brain! Okay, so she replaced Angie's spot next to her. And then it seems that the two of them are like, alright, we gotta figure out a few more things here. So then Bernie calls in Will. And Will is like, I don't need to fucking do this. I don't have anything to prove to you. And then she's like, I know you're gonna do it. You love doing shit like this. And he was basically like, God, you're so right. Alright. And then he's like, alright, I'll do it. And then she's like, also, you're gonna have a partner. He's like, I don't need a partner. And then she was like, no, you're gonna definitely get a partner. It's Leon here. Leon, don't call me Lion. More like she trapped him there. Oh, yeah, that was technically, that was the truth, right? Yeah. Yeah, he trapped him. That's kind of unfair. You're right. So right, so true, so correct. He did, right towards the end of the stream on Tuesday, did the whole little, watch this trick, Leon. Threw the little flower. And they're, like, self-contained in this situation, this fragment situation, or whatever you want to call it. Something like that. Let's see, and while that's happening, Byrne's gonna give us all the answers. All the answers. Because my brain needs answers. I would pound my desk right there if I knew it wasn't gonna make like a terrible sound. Answers! Just imagine I'm pounding when I say answers. Answers! Bang. Such immersion. It's like I'm an old school, like, radio. What are they called? Storyteller radio show. Answers! Bang! I'm just as real as the attack from Mars thing that happened, like, years ago. And all the dumb people ran to the streets thinking aliens were attacking and doing things. I'm just as good as that. Do I need to go back at all? Is there anything to look at? Byrne Castell set up a barrier. Great. I believe this is Leon saying this. Used to speaking with the family head. So, essentially, Leon's like, alright. Not as cool, calm, and collected, maybe, as Will seems to be. But also is the in the family. Exactly, that's what I was just about to say. So basically, I think Leon's strength here in this duo is going to be, I am technically part of this family, even though you may or may not have heard of me before, because he was like, I've read all the other stories, all the fragment story things, and there was no mention of you. And then Bernie was like, ha ha ha, and Leon was like, who the fuck are you guys? And then Leon's like, I'm the elder, Kraus, offspring. I'm Jessica's older sibling. So that was a thing. Kinzo's the only one who's ever met her. Yeah. Let's see. The words Burns said were like, quote, Leon was always a possible piece. I just expanded the reach of the cat box a bit. Ah. Always a possible piece. Just decided to be used here in episode 7. Because everyone loves new characters. We need new shiny toys. The Ishirumi family members were relaxing here and there around the waiting room. A light Buffett-style... I didn't know it was going. Off to a great start, guys. All right, let's get my shit together. All right, a light. Oh shit. Okay, a light buffet-style meal had been set up, but it was a bit stale and not particularly appealing. Even so, those voracious kids seemed to find it intensely interesting. I gotta adjust my mic. I gotta raise it up. It's banging in my left shoulder. Can't have that happening. Okay, the kids seemed to find it intensely interesting. The cousins had set up camp around it with Maria at the center. Man, it's been a while since Maria's gotten, like, been a big part. She had a little section, I think, last episode. There was a little section where it was, like, we had the Maria versus, Erica situation. God, so many names. I'm so sorry. It sounds... I've had a long day. But, like... it's one of those things where, like, you start, like... It's so many different names. There's so many names in this thing that I'm just like, alright, gotta keep straight. Don't say... I was like, don't say Bernie again. Don't say Bern Castile. Don't do it. Erica. The adult siblings had also formed a group in a different corner. Perhaps because of Kinzo's absence, everyone seemed to be a little more relaxed. Leon, where did you go? And who is that? Yeah, this is gonna be weird. There's a mystery man. Erica, who's that? Yeah, that's true. She's out of our life now. But probably not really. Mother? I was entertaining this guest of ours. Sorry, I had to boost it up a little bit there. Will, this is my mother, Natsui. No introductions needed. Just tell me what you have to say. Got it, right? Cut through the bullshit, Will. Huh? Did you say something? No, he said nothing. This is Will-san. Okay, this was ever so lightly touched upon, I think, last episode. I just want to, unless it's a spoiler, this is a true thing, because if it is a potential, like, spoiler or secret or something that's going to resolve a question later, is it 100% established as of this moment, should I know, if Leon is female or male? Did I miss something? Is it supposed to be ambiguous at this point? Is it supposed to be... I just want to make it clear before we go further if I need it to be clear. Because I think the game, if I had to guess... That's the thing. I think, unless I'm very misreading the situation, I think it was supposed to be ambiguous. The way it seemed... Oh, also, I didn't notice this. I noticed this after I closed stream on Tuesday. Look at Leon taking this spot, this box. Taking the Bernie box. Spot, I mean. The Bernie box. Or not Bernie. Erica. I did it. I said burn. I know, fuck me. I'm all kinds of flustered. No. He said nothing. This is Wilson.
個人に縁ある方だそうです。
It seems he knew the deceased. With a smile, Leon casually smoothed over Will's words.
彼はベアトリーチェのことをより詳しく知りたがっています。
He wants to know more about Beatrice.
母さんはベアトリーチェについては何かご存知ですか？
Do you know anything about her mother?
リオン、個人は当主様のかつての恩人です。
Leon, the departed is an individual to whom the head owed a great debt.
そしてそれ以上でもそれ以下の関係でもありません。
Nothing more? Nothing less.
この葬儀
Yeah,
は
that doesn't seem
当主
shifty at all.
様が個人への生前の恩を報いるためのお式。
This funeral is a ceremony for the head to repay his benefactor for all he received while that person still lived.
そう聞いていますし、それ以外のことは何もありません。
That is what I've been told, and there's nothing more to it than that.
ありがとう、母さん。
Thanks, Mother.
ウィル、母が知っていることはこれだけです。
Will, that's all my mother knows. Not so he was eager to deny the scandal about Beatrice being Kinzo's mistress. However, she also had enough sense to realize that the scandal was probably true. Picking up that Natsui was in a bad mood and didn't want to talk about this anymore, Leon brought an end to that conversation before Will could say something rude again.
ウィル、
Will,
この礼拝堂は当家の敷地内です。
this chapel belongs to the family.
当家のルールに従えってか。
So you're telling me to follow the family's rules?
当家の客人にふさわしい口調に改めていただく。
Speak in a manner appropriate for a guest of the family.
話はすべて私を介していただく。
Let me be the medium for all of the conversations. For all of your conversations.
その2つを守っていただけるようお願いいたします。
I ask that you follow those two rules.
努力すら。
I'll work on that.
ベルーンカステルとかいう魔女に巻き込まれて大いに迷惑です。
The mess this Bernkastel witch or whatever has dragged us into is a real pain.
ですから私も協力はします。
Because of that, I'm willing to help you.
しかしあなたと私の立場は対等ですので、
But
そ
we're
れをお忘れになりませんよ。
equal partners in this job, and you'd best not forget that. Look at Leon trying to establish some kind of authority. I'm sure Will react 100% positively to that.
育ちがいいだけのお坊ちゃんだと思ってたら。
And here I thought you were just some well-bred rich kid.
なかなか言うな。
Seems you can speak up after all.
これでも後ろ宮家の未来を背負う覚悟はありますので。
I must be prepared to shoulder the Ishinomiya family's future after all.
わかった。
Got it.
仲良く事件を解決しようぜ。ワトソン君。
Let's solve this crime together, Watson. He said the thing! He said the name!
ご協力いただけて嬉しいです。
I'm glad I can help.
愛病のダイアナを待たせないためにも。
Also, I'm sorry if it sounds like I'm like adjusting my chair a lot. It's because I am tonight. My back is like killing me today. It's one of those days where I like woke up and it feel like extremely old. So I'm trying to get into like a whatever. I'm glad I can. I wouldn't want to keep your dear cat Deanna waiting. Wait, let me say this. I'm glad I wouldn't want to keep your dear cat Deanna waiting. Who is she again? Who is? Am I missing something? Why does that name sound uber familiar? That wasn't a. Is that just a cat? Is that actual cat? Will said it. So I'm just like faintly remembering the name being said last stream. Fair enough.
餌の時間は大丈夫ですか？
Won't she need to be fed soon?
今日は山盛りにしてある。
I gave her extra food today.
多少は大丈夫だ。
So she should be good for a while.
よくダイアナが猫のことだと分かったな。
Something like being late for a date with Deanna before she scratches the sofa again. Okay. I'm surprised you realized Deanna was a cat.
ソファーを引っかいて待ちわびる女性というのも少々個性的が過ぎると思いましたので。
I figured it'd be just a bit too eccentric for her to be a human woman who scratches at sofas when you keep her waiting. It would be at least be interesting if you had like a if you had an actual person. you're late to showing back up home. Starts like scratching the sofas.
それで
So,
まずは誰に話を？
who will you talk to first?
誰でもいい。
Anyone.
全員だ。
Everyone.
あそこにいるのはクラウスの兄弟たちか。
Those ones over there are Krause's siblings, right? Wow, it's
向かって右からエヴァおばさん。
that's the type of answer I give to any like point and click adventure or something. If a partner was like, all right, so an NPC comes up to me and is like, so who are you going to talk to first to solve the riddle? I'm going to be like, anyone and everyone. I'm going to listen to everything everyone says. Click everything. From right to left, there's Aunt Eva,
秀吉おじさん。
Uncle Hideyoshi.
あちらがルドルフおじさん。
Over there is Uncle Rudolph,
キリエおばさん。
Aunt Kyrie. The best.
そしてあちらが
And over there is
後ろ宮ローザか。
Ishirumiya Rosa.
少女時代に森をさまよい、隠し館でベアトリーチェと名乗る女に遭遇した経験を持つ。
When she was a girl, she once got lost in the forest and bumped into a woman calling herself Beatrice in a hidden mansion.
驚くまいとは思っていますが、
I know I shouldn't be surprised anymore,
本当にあなたは何でも知っている。
but you really do know everything, don't you?
お前もその話は知っているのか。
So, you know about that story too?
今日彼女がそう話しているのを漏れ聞きました。
I managed to overhear her saying that today.
辛そうな話でしたので聞こえないふりをしましたが、
It looked as though it was bothering her, so I pretended not to hear.
優等生だな。
Real model student you are.
紹介してくれ。
Introduce me.
話を聞きたい。
I want to ask about it.
辛そうな話でしたので聞こえないふりをした優等生の私に？
You're asking this of the model student who pretended not to hear, because it just might be a painful topic? Even this outrageous arrogance is nothing compared to Kinzo. After muttering this several times mentally, Leon shrugged and nodded at will.
あら、次期当主様じゃない。
Oh, it's our successor, Sama.
そちらの方は？
And who is this?
ああ、エヴァおばさん。
Oh, and Eva.
こちらはウィルさん。
This is Wilson.
個人のために献花に訪れてくれました。
He came to offer flowers for the departed.
んなことはどうでもいい。
But who cares about that?
ベアトリーチェについて知って。
Tell me everything you know about.
個人と後ろ宮家の関わりについてお話を聞きたいと言っています。
What did Leon tell you, Will? He says he wants to know what sort of relationship the Ishimiya family has had with the deceased. Leon spoke with a bright smile after pinching Will's butt. Nice. Will silently protested as though saying, I saw that coming, but damn that hurt. But Leon just played dumb and smiled at Eva like a model student.
後ろ宮家との関わりっ
Well...
て言ってもね。
Even if you say relationship with the Ishimiya family,
後ろ宮家と中よりお父さんとの関わりっちゅうべきやろな。
it probably makes more sense to say her relationship with father.
正直に言えばいいのさ。
No need to beat around the bush.
親父の愛人ってな。
She was father's mistress.
愛人なんて言うとまた夏日姉さんに怒られるわよ。
If you call her that, Natsumi-san will yell at you again.
恩人でしょ。
He's indebted to her, right? Google.
そうやな。
Yep, that's right. Whoa.
こんな具合ですが。
Well, there you have it.
ローザ以外には興味ね。
I have no interest in anyone but Rosa. Stop pinching
ロ
my
ーザおば
butt.
さんは確かベアトリーチェに会ったことがあると。
I do believe that you said you met with Beatrice, Aunt Rosa. This whole time, Rosa had been hanging her head. Leon's words made her shoulders quiver.
今日になって急に言い出したのよ。
She just suddenly came out with it today.
ちょっと信じがたい話だわ。
It's a bit hard to believe.
本当なのよ。
It's the truth.
ベアトリーチェは私が殺したの。
I killed Beatrice. Oh yeah, this is... I remember this. This was a continuation of last stream as well. Rosa, you know, freaking out. Doing Rosa things.
事件解決だな。
Perfect. Work here's finished.
早計です。
Don't get ahead of yourself. Rosa broke down crying and laid her head on the table. Kairi and Hideyoshi tried to console her.
六軒島はうっそうとした森に包まれてる。
Rokenjima is covered by a dense forest.
私たちが知っているのはそのうちのごくわずか。
You only know about one tiny portion of it.
屋敷とバラ庭園、
Just the mansion, the rose garden,
そして船着き場に向かうちょっとした林道だけ。
and the little path that leads to the harbor.
誰も知らない広大な森のどこかに親父が隠れ屋敷を作って
For years, there's been stories about how Dad built a hidden mansion somewhere in the vast forest that no one knew about.
愛人を住まわせてるんじゃないかって話は相当の昔からあったんだ。
And that he had a mistress living there.
ローザさんは多分その隠れ屋敷に偶然たどり着いてしまったっちゅうんやろな。
Rosa's son probably stumbled on the hidden mansion by chance.
しかしどうしてローザおばさんはベアトリーチェを殺したなどと。
However, what does this have to do with Aunt Rosa killing Beatrice?
私が連れ出さなければ彼女は死なずに済んだわ。
If I hadn't taken her out with me, she never would have died.
彼女は無垢なひよこのような人だったわ。
She was so innocent, like a chick. Also, I'm like transfixed by the food behind Rosa right now. We got like little sandwich triangles. And then I'm trying to be like, are those like little eggs? Egg balls? I'm not good at identifying very small little foods. Yeah, I know they were saying that the food wasn't that great looking. Egg balls.
私が連れ出したから素直についてきた。
I took her out, and she just followed along obediently.
何も疑わずに私の後をぴったりついてきて。
She stayed right behind me, trusting me completely.
私があんな足場の悪いところを歩かせてしまったから。
And because I made her take such a dangerous path,
お前は崖から足を踏み外すことを期待してそこを歩かせたんだ。
did you make her walk that way because you were hoping she'd slip and fall from the cliff?
そんなつもりはなかった。
I never meant to do that.
ただ海が見たいと思って。
I just thought she'd like to see the ocean. No.
歩きづらそうだったから。
It just looked like the path would be hard to walk.
下に降りれば少しは楽になるかなと思って。
And I thought it'd be easier going if we went down the cliff first.
それは殺したとは言わね
That's not what it means to kill someone.
え。事故だ。
It was an accident.
私が連れ出さなければ会わなかった事故よ。
An accident that she never would have had if it hadn't brought her with me. If I hadn't brought her with me, right?
私のせいなの。
It's my fault.
それに私は血まみれの彼女を見捨てて逃げ帰ってしまった。
And then I abandoned her when she was covered in blood and ran home.
あんたのせいじゃね
It isn't your fault.
え。ベアトリーチェは海を一度も見たことがなかった。
Beatrice had never seen the ocean before.
それをあんたが初めて見せたんだ。
You showed her that for the first time ever.
つい浮かれて一歩踏み外しちまったんだろ
She was probably so excited that she just happened to take a bad step. Chat, have you ever been so excited by something you took a bad step and tumbled down a cliffside? To your death?
どうしてあなたはそれを
How can you know that?
ベアトリーチェはあんたに感謝こそすれ恨んでるわけもね。
Beatrice might thank you for what you did, but she would never hate you.
そうかしら
Really?
本当に
Is that
そうなのかしら
really true?
柵の外の世界へ出たいと懇願したのは彼女だろう。
She's the one who begged to see the world outside the fence, right?
お前はその夢を束の間だけ叶えたんだ。
Though it was only for a short while, you made that dream of hers come true.
俺がベアトリーチェならその束の間の時間をお前に感謝するだろ
If I were Beatrice, I'd thank you for that short bit of time.
う。なのにお前がいつまでも苦しんでると知ったら申し訳なく思うだろう。
If she knew that you've been suffering all this time for it, she'd probably feel sorry for you.
ベアトリーチェはお前に感謝してる。
Beatrice is grateful for what you did.
海が青いってことを教えてくれたあんたをな。
You're the one who taught her that the sea is blue.
それは
Is that
本当に
true?
俺が保証する。
I guarantee it. Will made that statement openly and boldly. It wasn't clear how Rosa took those words. However, it had apparently been enough to remind Rosa to take a handkerchief out of her pocket and wipe her eyes with it.
ありがとう
Thank you.
その言葉はベアトリーチェが今もあんたにささやいてる。
Those are the words Beatrice is whispering to you even now.
ありがとう
Thank you. Rosa wiped her eyes with the handkerchief one more time and hung her head. It no longer looked like a fit of sobbing, but more as though she was speaking with the Beatrice of that day within her heart. One last time.
よくもそんな無責任な言葉を堂々とかけられるものです。
You really have no problem making claims you can never back up, don't you?
責任がなけりゃ
Back up?
女を慰めることもできねえのか。
Is that really necessary to comfort a woman?
多少は見直しました。
Seems I underestimated you. How many years did it torment Rosa? Now, finally, she would probably be able to face that innocently smiling Beatrice, who had seen the ocean for the first time in her life. She was the only one who could forgive Rosa. Now, the two of them could finally speak together.
どなたか存じないけれどありがとう
I don't know who you are, but thank you.
彼女は私を許してくれるかしら
I wonder if she'll forgive me.
あんたは20年近くもそれを悩んだ。
You've worried about it for nearly 20 years.
長すぎだ。
That's far too long.
彼女はもう勘弁しろと言ってだ。
Should tell you that you've suffered more than enough already.
そうですよ、ローザおばさん。
That's right, Aunt Rosa.
あなたが悲しめば悲しむほど、きっとベアトリーチェも悲しむでしょう。
The sadder you are, the sadder Beatrice would be.
あなたまで
You too?
ありがとう
Thank you.
私が許されるかどうかわからないけれど
I don't know if I'll be forgiven,
彼女が許してくれるかどうか胸の中で問いかけてみることにするわ
but I'll keep on speaking to my heart to see whether she'll forgive me or not.
二人ともありがとう
Thanks, you too.
恥ずかしいところを見せてごめんなさい
Sorry for showing you such an embarrassing side of me.
綺麗事を言った下の根も乾かねえうちで恐縮だが
And I'm sorry to say this right after saying something so
聞か
pretty,
せてほしい。
but I want you to talk to me.
当時のことを。
Tell me what happened back then.
ウィルさん、
Wilson!
ありがとう大丈夫よ
Thanks, but it's fine.
話すわ
I'll talk.
誰にも話さずにずっと隠してきたことが私の一番の罪なのかもしれないから
Hiding this and keeping quiet about it for so long might have been my greatest sin.
お前がベアトリーチェに出会ったのは 正確にはいつ頃なのか。
Exactly when was it that you met Beatrice? Upon hearing this question, Rosa closed her eyes lightly, reaching back to a past she didn't want to remember.
20年ほど昔の話よ。
It was about 20 years ago.
20いえ19年前か18年前かもしれない。
20, or wait, it might have been 19 or 18 years ago.
ごめんなさい。
I'm sorry.
長いこと無理に忘れようとしてきたものだからそこは少し忘れかけてるわ。
I've tried to force myself to forget it for so long that I've nearly forgotten that part completely.
1967年のことのはずだ。
Should have been 1967.
かつて第3のゲームでロノウェが赤き真実でそれを確定させている。
Renove had guaranteed that with the red truth in the third game. He says that and Rosa's just like, what the fuck?
そうね。
That's right.
多分1967年頃だわ。
It was probably about 1967.
あの時の出来事は写真のように鮮明に覚えてる。
I can remember what happened as clearly as a picture.
忘れられないの。
I'll never forget.
辛かったら無理に話す必要はありませんので。
If it's tough for you, don't feel like you have to tell us.
写真のように鮮明に頼む。
Yes. Clear as a picture if you don't mind.
痛えぞリオン。
Damn it. It hurts, Leon.
何のことやら。
What does? Stop pinching me.
私の内緒話を母に告げ口していたのにショックを受けて。
At the time, I was in a state of shock since my tutor told Mother about something that was supposed to be a secret.
あの日、私は自暴自棄になって森の奥へ奥へどこまでもかけていったの。
On that day, I became reckless, and I kept on running deeper and deeper into the forest. This tale has also been told in a previous fragment. Back when Rosa was just a kid, she went deep into the forest, found a hidden mansion, and met with a mysterious woman who called herself Beatrice.
ほんの少し分け入ることすら難しいあの深い森を。
But that forest is so thick, even pushing your way through it, a bit of it is hard, right?
自分でも驚くわ。
I even surprised myself.
あんなうっそうとした森をよくもあんなに深くまで。
To think that I made it so far into such a dense forest.
たくさんの梢や鋭い葉っぱで苛まれたわ。
I was tormented by twigs and sharp leaves over and over again.
でもあの日の私は気にしなかった。
However, that wasn't enough to bother me on that day.
森の奥へ消えることで永遠に消えてしまいたかったし、
After all, I wanted to disappear into the forest and vanish forever.
もし本当に森の奥に魔女の館があったなら、
If by some chance there really was a witch's mansion in the depths of the forest,
自分を幸せの国へ連れて行ってくれるか、カエルにでも変えて森の住人に変えてくれると思っていたから。
I hope that she might take me to I hope that she might take me to the some paradise. Okay. Or else turn me into a frog and make me a resident of the forest.
そしてあんたは隠し屋敷クアドリアンにたどり着き、
So, you then reach the hidden mansion, Kuadorian,
そこでベアトリーチェと名乗る女と出会う。
and met a woman who called herself Beatrice?
ええ、
Yes,
あったわ。
I met her.
そのベアトリーチェは肖像画のベアトリーチェと同一人物だったか。
Was that Beatrice the same as the one in the portrait?
ええ、
Yes,
同一人物だったわ。
they were the same person.
美しい青い瞳、
Beautiful blue eyes,
黄金の髪、
golden hair,
黒いドレス、
black dress.
まさにあの肖像画通りの人物だった。
It truly was the person in that portrait.
私はあの肖像画をお父様が掲げた時、
When father first had it hung,
私が忘れようとあがいた20年の月日はお父様にとっても同じ。
I realized that the 20 years I'd spent trying to forget must have seemed just as long as to father, if not even longer.
あるいはそれ以上の日々であったと気づき、さらなる罪に怯えたわ。
And I became even more fearful of my sin.
それ
Stop there.
本当にローザさんの出会ったベアトリーチェのことなのかしら。
Are we sure that this is the same Beatrice that Rosa-san met? Immediately, Kairi spoke the question that Will had been thinking of. It would be too rash to assume that the Beatrice Kinzo met and the one Rosa met were the same person. The time and generation didn't match up.
ベアトリーチェ
Strange.
ってのは戦後すぐの頃親父に黄金を貸し付けた勇敢マダムのはずだぜ。
Beatrice is supposed to be that lady of leisure who lent Dad all that gold shortly after the war, right?
お父さんはベアトリーチェの黄金を元手に後ろ宮家を復興して大金持ちになり、
By using Beatrice's gold as a foundation, Father revived the Ishimiya family and got super rich.
そして六軒島を買い取り移住するんや。
Then he bought Rokenjima and moved over.
ローザさんが出会ったのはそれから10年以上も先の話になるで。
Rosa-san meeting her must have been at least 10 years after that.
10トンの黄金を自在にできるご婦人が小娘程度のわけはない。
A woman who could do as she pleased with 10 tons of gold could hardly be some little girl.
ましてやローザが会った頃にはそれからさらに10年以上が経過してる。
And 10 more years passed before she met Rosa.
ローザ、
Rosa,
あんたの会ったベアトリーチェはいくつくらいに見えたのよ。
about how old did the Beatrice you met look?
当時の私よりは年上に見えたけれど、
She looked older than I was at the time.
それでも多分成人したかどうかという年に見えたわ。
But even so, it looked as though she might just be reaching adulthood.
そう、まさに肖像画のベアトリーチェくらいの年齢よ。
Yes, just the sort of age of the Beatrice in the portrait.
中年あるいは壮年に見えたか？
Did she look middle-aged or past her prime?
大人か子供かって言われたら明らかに子供に近い年齢だったわ。
If I had to call her an adult or a child, she was clearly closer to being a child.
中年なんてとんでもない。
There's no way she was middle-aged.
だからそれじゃおかしいのよ。
And isn't that strange?
あんたの会ったベアトリーチェとお父様に黄金を与えたベアトリーチェ、
We have the Beatrice you met and the Beatrice who gave father the gold,
年齢が合わないのよ。
but their ages don't match.
つまり別人ということだ。
In other words, they're different people.
よく似た同じ名前の別人。
Different people who look very similar and have the same name.
娘かもしれんな。
It might have been her daughter.
親子ならよく似とったに違いない。
A kid would obviously end up looking like her mother,
愛人の娘、
his mistress's daughter.
ありえるわ。
It is possible.
黄金を授けたベアトリーチェとの間にお父さんは隠し子を設けたとか。
Perhaps father had an illegitimate child with the Beatrice who gave him the gold.
それがローザの出会ったベアトリーチェ2世ってわけか。
And then, Rosa bumped into Beatrice II.
年齢的辻褄は合うな。
That way, the ages fit just fine.
なるほど。
I see.
つまりベアトリーチェと呼ばれる人物は2人いるわけですね。
In other words, there are two people who can be called Beatrice. Kinzo secretly raised his mistress's child in a hidden mansion. It made sense. Everyone nodded, agreeing. However, Will's expression was slightly unsatisfied, and he scratched at his head.
どうやらこの葬儀は
So, it would seem that
隠したがゆえに弔うことができなかった2人のベアトリーチェのためのようですね。
this funeral exists for the two Beatrices he couldn't mourn because they were kept secret.
ローザ、
Rosa?
思い出したくねえだろうが、事故の時の話を頼む。
I know you probably don't want to remember, but tell me about that accident.
ベアトリーチェが転落した時、まだ息はあったのか？
After Beatrice fell, was she still breathing?
いい
No.
え、目を大きく見開いていた。
Her eyes were open wide.
頭から真っ逆さまに落ちて、岩浜の岩の鋭い角に頭をぶつけて。
She fell upside down, head first, and knocked her head against a sharp crag on the rocky beach.
それもあの高さから。
And she fell from such a height.
頭部は陥没して裂けてたわ。
Her Her skull had split and caved inwards. I'm getting woozy. Thinking about it. That beautiful golden hair was stained red with blood almost instantly.
一目見て死んだと確信できる外傷だったのか。
Was it the sort of wound that clearly showed that she was dead? Yes. I saw the insides of her cracked head. Oh, stop, Rosa. Oh. Please. It had caved in deep enough to fit your fist inside it. No one could be naive enough to see that and still hope that she was alive. Will? Do you really need to ask anything more? me and Leon asking the same questions? Do we really need to continue, Will? Must we?
事故じゃもういい。
That's enough for the time of the accident.
それからあんたはどうした？
What did you do afterwards? I dashed away at full speed. I can't say I was thinking about calling it for help. I wanted to escape from that place as fast as I could. Half crazed, sobbing, and out of breath, I kept on running about at random. Eventually, I came across a familiar lion statue. Leon statue. That's a joke. Oh, the one in front of the chapel? No, the one behind it. Anyway, I made it back to the mansion. I couldn't tell anyone, and I didn't want to. I stayed quiet until nightfall. It was so horrible of me. If I had hurried and told someone, then I might have brought her a first aid kit, and she might have been saved. Alright, Rosa, you can't say like her head was split like open and you could fit like your skull, your fist in their skull, and also say, oh wait, maybe if I got someone in time and a first aid kit was present, that we'd be able to save her. Alright? You can't have both, Rosa. Alright? I'm just gonna say, the way you were describing it, you were saying that her head cracked open like an egg. A first aid kit is not gonna be saving that. Exactly! How is a first aid kit going to help with a crushed cranium? You didn't kill her. Don't worry about that anymore. Then, what did you do next? That night, I turned over in my bed so many times. I couldn't sleep. Late that night, I quietly called Genji-san, on the phone and told him. What did he say? He told me to let him handle everything and to speak of this to no one. I spent the next several days terrified that father would call for me and scold me brutally. But he didn't. Genji-san kept on doing his job quietly, just like normal. Father stayed locked up in his study, not knowing any of it. At the very least, none of us ever heard about it. Genji-san probably managed to clean everything up nicely. The pro cleaner. After all, they couldn't let knowledge of that child go public.
隠し子っちゅうたって血を分けた子供や。
Even if she was an illegitimate child, she was still his daughter by blood.
その葬式もまともにあげられんかったんなら、そらお父さんも心苦しかったやろな。
It must have been tough for father, not being able to hold a real funeral for her.
それがこの葬儀というわけですね。
I suppose that's why we're having this funeral.
それから
And then?
私が知っている話はこれで全てよ。
That's all I know.
俺が知っている話もそれで全てだ。
And that's all I know too.
これ以上私は何も隠していない。
I'm not hiding anything else.
全て話した。
I've told you everything.
誓うわ。
I swear it. Will scratched at his head, letting his gaze wander. It had taken Rose a lot of determination to make this confession, but it was nothing particularly special for Will. It had apparently been little more than a review of information he already knew.
ありがとう、ローザおばさん。
Thanks, Aunt Rosa.
十分ですか、ウィル。
Is that enough for you, Will?
これで話は。
Are you satisfied?
十分だ。
That's enough.
おさらいになった。
It was a nice review. To Will, Rose's memories gave only information that was already known. This was the first time he'd heard all that about her running back to the mansion after Beatrice fell into her death, but none of it was particularly surprising. Apparently, Rosa didn't know any more than this. If he wanted to learn more than what was in the fragments Bernkastel gave him, he would need to find new testimony.
リオン、
Leon,
金蔵に俺が話を聞きたがってると伝えろ。
tell Kinzo that I want to talk to him.
やはり本人に聞かなきゃ話は進まね
Looks like we won't get anywhere without asking the man himself. That's the thing to do. Go to the big man on top.
あなたはどちらへ？
Where are you going?
え。頭を冷やして整理する。
Off to cool my head and organize my thoughts.
ついてくんな。
Don't follow.
それは失礼。
Well then, pardon me.
どうぞごゆっくり。
Please take your time. After giving an elegant bow, Leon made a face, tongue sticking out. Unless Will had eyes on the back of his head, he couldn't have seen this last bit. Best of friends. Best of friends they are. Will returned to the chapel by himself. The cold air and the monotonous sound of the rain were comforting.
どう？ゲームは。
So, how's the game going? Shut up, Bernie. I don't want... If I was Will, I'd be like, Bernie, I don't want to see your face at all until I'm done with this. And then I will give you your answer. And we can be done with this whole thing. And he had come here for a little peace and quiet. As soon as he let out a sigh of relief, that voice rang out.
それは俺が聞くことだ。
That's my line. It was as though she had been sitting there all along. Bernkastel appeared on top of the altar once more. Beatrice's altar must have been extremely comfortable.
バトラは無能で、私を何度もイラつかせたわ。
Battler annoyed me over and over with his incompetence.
それに比べ、あなたは有能だから、見ていて安心できるわ。
You're quite competent compared to him, so it's much more relaxing to watch you work.
後ろ宮バトラの時と違い、誰の妨害もね
Unlike Ishimiya Battler's games, I have nothing standing in my way.
え。気楽なもんさ。
It's easy.
もうそういうゲームは終わったの。
That sort of game has already ended.
物語は二度楽しめるわ。
Tales can be enjoyed twice.
一度目はめでて、
First you love them,
二度目は腹を引き裂いてね。
then you tear out their guts. Giggle times two.
ち俺を肉屋だと思ってやがる。
So I'm a butcher now.
どう？
So,
ベアトリーチェ殺しの犯人はわかりそう？
do you think you figured out who killed Beatrice?
ローザの告白は過去のかけらですでに知ってる。
Rosa's confession is something I already know from a previous fragment.
真新しい情報はない。
There was no brand new information.
進展はゼロだ。
We're still at square one.
後宮金蔵が本当のことを喋らねえ限り、これ以上の展開はね。
Unless Ishiromiya Kinzo tells us what really happened, we won't get any further than this.
まさか俺が金蔵を口説き落として真相を告白させるってのも。
Don't tell me that arguing with Kinzo and persuading him to spill the beans
ゲームに含まれてるとは言い出さねえだろうな。
is supposed to be part of this game.
そんなの退屈で死んでしまうわ。
That'd be fatally boring.
真実を語らぬ金蔵はそれ自体が城に守られたキングだけれど、
Kinzo refuses to speak of the truth and is himself the king protected by his castle.
あなたのゲームの障壁になってしまっては面白くない。
But it wouldn't be any fun to have that stand in the way of your game.
拷問はやらね
I won't torture.
え。俺の流儀だ。
It's not my style.
わかってる。
As we saw at the beginning of the chapter, right? Or episode, I should say. I know.
ゲームマスターとしてあんたに力を与えるわ。
As a game master, I'll grant you power
金蔵から真実を得られるようにね。
so that you can get the truth from Kinzo, of course. Still wearing shoes, Burnkill stepped into the casket, picked up one of the flowers that had been set as offerings, and blew hard as though scattering fluff from a dandelion. Then, a single petal broke off and drifted down towards Will. No longer gold, but with the shine of a transparent crystal.
探偵権限か。
The detective's authority?
なにその間抜けな能力。
What? That pathetic ability?
違うわ。
No.
それは観覧席への招待状よ。
This is an invitation to the grandstands.
感激者権限か。
Theater-going authority?
それを元老院の許可なく与えることは禁じられてるはず。
That's supposed to be forbidden without authorization from the Senate.
私を私のゲーム版で
I'm the one giving it, on my game board.
誰が禁止する
Who's going to stop me? Though the crystal flower petal danced in the wind, it wouldn't fly away until Will accepted it. He remembered how useless it was to argue with witches and snatched it up. When he did, the petal flashed brightly for an instant, melted into Will's palm, and disappeared.
と。せいぜい私を楽しませなさい。
Entertain me if you can,
ついでにあなたも楽しむといい。
and try and enjoy yourself.
このベアトリーチェのゲーム版の腹渡がどうなってるか、あんたも興味があるでしょ。
You must also be interested in seeing what the guts of Beatrice's game board looks like, right?
ねえよ。
Not really. After Will's rude answer, Burnkill vanished into thin air, leaving behind an obnoxious laugh.
Ch.
Ch. After clicking his tongue, Will turned around unhappily. When he did, it felt as though his gaze had crossed that of a shadow standing right in front of him, near the door that led outside.
誰だ。
Who is it?
失礼しました。
Pardon me.
声が聞こえたので、どちら様かと思いまして。
I heard a voice, so I wondered who it was.
シャノンか。
Ah, Shannon.
今度はお前が受付をしているのか。
So you're running the reception desk this time?
はい。
Yes.
カノン君と交代で受付を担当させていただいております。
I've been taking it in turns with Cannon-kun to run the reception desk.
おう。カノンは。
And Cannon?
先ほど、
A short while ago, he was ordered by,
リオン様に休みを取るようご命令を賜りましたので、今は休んでおります。
Leon-sama to take a break, so he's resting now.
お前もリオンに面識がないのか。
So, you don't know Leon either? Huh?
いえ、そんな。
No, that's not...
後宮リオンは銀の指輪を許された次期当主だ。
Ishiromiya Leon is the successor, the one who wears the silver ring.
10年を務めたお前が 名前を言いよどむのはおかしい。
Why are you stumbling over that name when you've worked here for 10 years?
それは
That's...
安心しな。
Don't worry.
リオンに面識がねえのは俺もだ。
I don't recognize Leon either.
次期当主はクラウスのはず。
Kraus is supposed to be the successor.
子供もジェシカだけのはずだ。
Jessica's supposed to be his only child.
リオンなんてやつが後ろ宮家にいたかけらなんて一つもなかったはず。
There hasn't been a single fragment with anyone named Leon in the Ishimiya family. When she realized that Will didn't recognize Leon either, Shannon relaxed. Apparently, she was a bit relieved to find that she wasn't going crazy by herself. However, her expression quickly grew uncertain once more.
ここはどこなんでしょう。
Where is this place?
後ろ宮家の礼拝堂と思います。
I think it's the Ishimiya family chapel.
でもどことなく雰囲気が違います。
However, something feels different about it.
それにリオン様という方がおられたなんて
Also,
私全然知りませんでした。
I never knew that someone named Leon-sama existed.
なのに旦那様も奥様も親方様もお嬢様も親類の皆様も当たり前のようにお話をされています。
And yet, Madame, Kraus-sama, the master, Milady, and all the relatives all talk as though it's perfectly natural.
何が何だか私わからなくて。
I just don't understand what's happening.
リオンはベルンカステルが置いた駒だ。
Leon is a piece placed by Bernkastel.
奴を置くためにさらに大きな猫箱に変えたとも言っていた。
She also said that in order to place that piece, she switched over to a larger cat box.
それだけでなく、どうもここはいくつかのかけらが継ぎはぎして作られたまともじゃない世界らしい。
On top of that, it seems this world isn't a proper world, but one made out of several different fragments sewn together. It's as though this is a special stage set up specifically for this game. I'm sure she's nodding at my thoughts right now, laughing and chomping down popcorn.
この世界のお前は何年ここに勤めている？
How long have you worked here in this world?
10年です。
10 years. I see. So it really is a special stage. After all, right when I entered the chapel, I spotted Kinzo. Since Shannon has been working here for 10 years, this world takes place in 1986, the stage of Biyato's game. In that case, Kinzo shouldn't exist. However, he definitely was here a few minutes ago. Bernkastel promised that all the information needed for reasoning was gathered here. She must have really packed it together to fit everything in. I see. So it really is a special stage.
お前はそれだけの長い間、後ろ宮家に仕えてた。
You've served the Ishimiya family for many years.
なら、ベアトリーチェのことをどれだけ知っている？
So, just how much do you know about Beatrice?
親方様が深く愛された方くらいにしか。
I know the master loved her deeply, but other than that,
それだけか？
is that all?
あとその
And,
六軒島の夜の主と言われていて、
they say that she's the master of Rokenjima's night.
その
そうだ。
That's right.
夜な夜な屋敷を徘徊するとささやかれる亡霊の名もまた
The
ベ
name
ア
of
ト
the
リーチェだ。
the name of the ghost rumored to wander the mansion night after night is also Beatrice. I'm Beatrice. You're Beatrice. We're all Beatrice. That brings the number of Beatrices to 3. The first is the Beatrice from more than 30 years ago, who is said to have given Kinzo the gold. The second is the Beatrice from 20 years ago, who met Rosa. The third is the Beatrice of the ghost stories, who is rumored to be the master of the night on Rokenjima.
フルドエリカの推理は正しいだろう。
Furudo Erika's reasoning was probably correct.
もともと六軒島に存在した悪霊の伝説。
Started out as a legend of evil spirits on Rokenjima.
そこに金蔵のオカルト趣味と謎の女。ベアトリーチェの 名前や肖像が。
Later on, elements such as Kinzo's occult hobbies, the name and portrait of the mysterious woman, Beatrice,
自分が次第に加味されていき、黄金の魔女伝説に統合された。
and the epitaph got mixed in, and it was all integrated into the legend of the Golden Witch.
そして夜の闇が魔女という人格を得た。
Then, the darkness of the night gained the personality of a witch.
それが3人目のベアトリーチェだ。
That's the third Beatrice.
それが連続殺人犯のベールとなる。
This became the veil for the serial murders.
えっと
Apparently she didn't understand a word of Will's sudden monologue. Shannon tried to follow along, but she seemed to be having difficulty.
無理に理解するな。
Don't waste your time trying to understand.
頭痛になら。
You'll just get a headache.
申し訳ございません。
My apologies.
カノンもリオンのことを知らないのか。
Cannon doesn't know Leon either, right?
はい。
Yes.
カノン君も私と同じでした。
Cannon-kun was the same as me. Shannon and Cannon, is it?
カノンも呼んで2人に話が聞きたい。
Call Cannon over here. I want to talk to the pair of you about something. When Will said these words, Shannon's face went blank and her eyes went wide.
申し訳ございません。
My apologies.
受付を開けることは許されておりませんので、私には呼びに行くことができません。
We aren't allowed to leave the reception desk unmanned, so I can't leave to go get him.
なら誰か代わりを呼んできて受付を変わらせる。
Then find a replacement and have them take over the reception desk until you get back.
あんたとカノンと俺。
You, me, and Cannon.
リオンを知らない3人で一緒に話がしたい。
We, the three people who don't know Leon, need to talk.
受付は一人でいいと仰せつかっております。
We've been told that one person is enough to run the reception desk,
2人いちゃいけねえとは言われてねえはずだ。
but no one told you there was anything wrong with two people manning it, right?
本日は人手が足りませんので、受付に2人も不要と仰せです。
We're low on helpers today, so we were told that having two people at the reception desk would be unnecessary.
誰がそう命じた？
Who gave you that order?
金蔵か？クラウスか？
Kinzo? Kraus?
それともリオンか？
Or was it Leon?
確認する。
I'll check with them.
私の命令権者です。
Bah? It was the one who orders me.
私は命令に逆らえません。
I cannot disobey orders.
その命令権者は誰だ？
Who is this person?
そいつに交渉する。
I'll negotiate with them.
交渉などできません。
You cannot negotiate.
私たちの命令権者です。
It is the one who orders us.
ここへカノンを呼べ。
Call Cannon over here.
俺は拷問も感激も綺麗だ。
I hate theater going just as much as I hate torture. Slowly, Will pulled his right hand out of his pocket. When he slowly opened his fist, a small bright glow emanated from it. A flower petal given to him by Baron Castell had become a glowing, sparkling mark on his hand. He held out a hand out towards Shannon and slowly approached her.
カノンを呼べ。
Call Cannon.
お前たちに確かめたいことがある。
I want to check something with you two.
お呼びできません。
I
それ
can't...
でもなお、それをご希望ですか？
I can... not call him. Do you still want me to...
呼ばねえならお前を感激する。
If you don't call him, I'm going to use my authority.
どうしてもとおっしゃるのでしたら、
If
特
you...
別にお呼びすることもできますが、
If you insist, I can call him especially for you, but There was some kind of incomprehensible tension between the two. Will stood there, his left hand still in his pocket, and his right palm glowing and stretched out towards her. Shannon just stood there, her hands still folded politely in front of her, her posture beautiful. And yet, it felt oddly as though windswept drops of rain were sparkling and crackling in midair.
カノン君を呼んでまいりますが
I will go call Cannon Kun.
よろしいですか
Are you absolutely certain? Question mark? Will's expression had remained unchanged the whole time. Shannon's face was still kind of gentle, and yet the tension was as icy as a frozen lake. Beginners in chess will sometimes move their king into check without noticing it. One might mercilessly capture the king in this situation, but high-level players are supposed to calmly tell their opponent about their mistake. If you take one more step, you'll get captured. This was similar to that. I see. So, after all,
もう分かった。
I get it.
十分だ。
That's enough.
二人で交代で受付を頼む。
You guys can take it in turns to run the reception desk. You guys can take... Yeah, he said that. You guys can take it in turns to run the reception desk. Just a little thought there. Slowly, Will lowered his hand.
ご理解いただけまして助かります
Thank you for understanding. The glow slowly vanished from Will's palm. That completely incomprehensible tension melted away like a sugar cube in water. However, nothing had changed since the beginning. Will's expression and Shannon's expression were the same as they always had been.
おやお帰りですか
Oh, are you leaving? Footsteps approached them. It was Leon.
立ち話をしていただけだ。
Just having a casual conversation.
こいつに聞きたかったことがあったんだな。
I wanted to ask her something.
それは何でしょう
What could that be?
そしてそれは得られましたか
Did you find what you were looking for?
ああ、
Yeah.
お役に立てて光栄です
I'm honored to have been of service.
それは残念
That's a shame.
傘をお探しのようでしたらすぐにでもご用意させましたのに
If you were looking for an umbrella, I could have gotten you one right away.
金蔵に話はついたのか。
Did you convince Kinzo?
珍しい客人が挨拶をしたがっていると伝えました
I told him that a rare guest wanted to greet him.
お会いするそうです
He says he'll meet with you.
ベアトリーチェのことを聞きたいとは伝えたのか。
Did you tell him that I wanted to ask about Beatrice?
それはあなたの仕事でしょ
Isn't that your job? With a slightly mischievous look, Leon turned away. Will scratched his head and shrugged, looking annoyed.
まあいいさ。
Well,
こいつを試すだけの話だ。
guess I'll get a chance to try this out at least. Will opened his right hand and showed it to Leon. It was just a hand, without anything remotely remarkable about it. Leon's head tilted to the side in bafflement at this strange gesture.
ご苦労様です
Good work.
君の名前は確か
Wait, your name was...
シャノンです
It's Shannon.
そうだったシャノンでしたね
That's right, Shannon.
引き続き受付をよろしく頼みます
Please take over at the reception desk.
肩を冷やさないように
And make sure you keep warm.
ありがとうございますリオン様
Thank you very much, Leon-sama. Shannon bowed deeply in response to Leon's kind words. There was not even a trace of tension in her manner.
参りましょうビル
Let's go, Will.
せっかく時間をいただけたのです
You don't want to miss this chance.
当主様の機嫌は
秋の空より変わりやすいですよ。
The head's mood changes quicker than the autumn sky.
いってらっしゃいませ。
Good luck.
行くか。
Here we go. Time to talk to Kinzo indeed. Surely we'll get all the answers from this man. Surely.
ウィラードさんをお連れしました。
I've brought Williard-san. Kinzo and Genji could be seen in the VIP room. Kinzo was sitting back in a chair, his eyes closed as though in a troubled sleep.
親方様、
Master,
お客様がお見えになりました。
the guest has come to see you. Oh, let me open my eyes. Kinzo slowly opened his eyes. Those eyes were red from crying. Aww. They regained their focus and slowly fell on Will.
私が後宮金蔵である。
I am Ishiromio Kinzo.
ウィル、
Will?
ウィラードだ。
I'm Willard.
お悔やみ申し上げる。
Allow me to express my condolences.
ベアトリーチェの葬儀に訪ねてくるとは。
So, you came here to attend Beatrice's funeral.
そなたは何者なのか。
Just who are you?
誰でもない。誰とも関係ない。
I'm no one. I have no connections with anyone.
深く考えるな。
Don't think too deeply about it.
頭痛になら。
You'll just get a headache. Ow!
もう少し言葉遣いにご注意をお願いいたします。
I ask that you choose your words a little more carefully. Smile.
おかしな客人だ。
What a strange guest.
それで、
So,
この私に何用か。
what business do you have with me?
ベアトリーチェのことを聞きたい。
I want to ask about Beatrice.
何？
What? Kinzo's gaze grew sharp. Leon felt a bit lightheaded and wondered why this guy had to be so direct.
聞いてどうする？
Why do you ask?
お前は誰でもないのであろう
You're no one, aren't you?
が。ベアトリーチェのことを知ってどうするという。
Why do you want to know about Beatrice?
何の意味があるというのか。
What is your purpose?
俺が誰でもないからこそ、
Because I'm no one.
お前の物語を公正に聞き、残すことができる。
I can listen to your tale impartially and record it.
お前はじきにこの世を去るだろう。
You'll probably leave this world before too long.
その時、ベアトリーチェのことを何も語らずに死んだんだ。
If you die without telling anyone anything about Beatrice,
お前の子供たちは彼らが好き勝手に考えた物語でベアトリーチェを修飾し記録に残すだろう。
your children will adorn Beatrice with whatever tale they please, writing that into their memories. No.
面白い若造だ。
You entertain me, boy.
お前は遺言屋を気取ろうというわけか。
Do you plan on writing my will for me?
だが、それは余計なお世話というものよ。
But that is none of your business.
ベアトリーチェは私だけのベアトリーチェだ。
Beatrice is mine alone.
誰が何を語ろうとも。
No matter what other people say.
私とあれの物語は誰にも怪我せん。
No one
何の意味も持たん。
can defile our tale. What they say is of no consequence.
クラウスたちがどう曲解しようとも痛くも痒くもないわ。
No matter how Kraus and the others misconstrue it, it will be neither painful nor vexing to me.
ウィラード様、
Willard-sama.
親方様は遺言を好まれません。
The master is not fond of wills.
生きているうちより何事かを投げ出すお方ではございません。
He is not the sort of man who would abandon a task so that it might be performed after his life ends.
だろう
Probably true.
な。らしからぬこととは思っていた。
I thought it sounded a bit unlike you.
誠意ある限りあがいてこそ人間であろうが。
The ability to struggle on as long as we have life is what makes us human.
それを早々に諦め遺言に残そうという浅ましさなど少子千万。
You think I would give up as soon as leave behind a will? Give up soon and leave behind a will? How laughably absurd.
確かにその方がお前らしい。
Yes, that does sound a bit more like you.
死ぬかもしれないから過去語りを記せと言い出すのは確かにお前の柄じゃねえ。
It's not your style to ask someone to write about the past, just because you think your death is drawing near.
当主様がベアトリーチェ様のことを深く愛しておられたことは存じ上げております。
We know how deeply you love Beatrice-sama.
私たちにとって当主様は最大の尊敬の対象であるとともに生きるすべての模範です。
You are the model most worthy of respect for any of us now. That any of us know. An example for us to follow in every aspect of our lives.
どうか迷える私たちのために
Please guide our wandering souls and tell us just how much you loved our grandfather.
いかにしておじい様が彼女を愛し抜いたか、愛ゆえに生き抜いたか、
How were you able to live through everything you faced because of her love?
その愛の強さを私たちにお導きくださるようお願いすることはできないでしょうか。
I only ask for you to guide us by showing us that love's strength.
なかなか達者だ。
You're pretty good at this.
あなたが言葉を選ばないからです。
It's your fault for being so tactless.
若ず、
Boy!
お前はベアトリーチェの何を知っているというのか。
What do you know of Beatrice?
真に無知なる者は関心さえ持たぬ。
A truly ignorant person wouldn't even be interested in learning more.
ベアトリーチェの名を知っている時点で無知なる者ではなく縁なき者でもない。
The mere fact that you know Beatrice's name shows that you are neither ignorant nor unconnected.
道理だな。
Good point.
俺が知っているベアトリーチェは
The Beatrice I know of.
お前がかつて六軒島に屋敷を設ける以前に出会った最愛の女だ。
There's a woman you loved. The one you met before the mansion on Rokujima was even built.
しかしおそらくは死別して娘を残した。
However, she probably departed from this world, leaving behind a daughter.
それがクアドリアンで育てられていた娘だ。
And that's the girl who was raised in Kuwadorian. Who?
ウィラード様、
Willard-sama.
当六軒島にはクアドリアンなる建物は存在いたしません。
There is no building known as Kuwadorian on Rokujima.
そのクワドリアンという名前、
That name, Kuwadorian.
さっきローザおばさんと話した時にも口にしていました。
You mentioned it when we were talking with Aunt Rosa, too.
それは一体何なんですか。
What in the world does it mean?
察しはついてるはずだ。
You should have an idea by now.
愛人の娘を囲う六軒島の森の奥深くにある隠し屋敷の名だ。
It's the name of the hidden mansion deep in the forest where his mistress's daughter lived.
面白い。
Interesting.
クワドリアンの名を知ろうとはな。
So you actually know the name of Kuwadorian.
続けよ。お前に興味が出たぞ。
Continue. You have sparked my interest. Kenzo shrugged and grinned.
クアドリアンにいたのはベアトリーチェの娘だろう。
The one living in Kuwadorian was probably Beatrice's daughter.
だが少なくともお前はそうは思っていなかった。
However, seems that you at least didn't think of her that way.
ほ
Oh.
う。ならば何だと思っていたというのか。
Then how did I think of her?
後宮ローザはクアドリアンにて多少の身の上話を交わしている。
When Ishiromiya Rosa went to Kuwadorian, Beatrice told her a little about herself.
その中でベアトリーチェはお前のことを指して金蔵と呼んでいる。
In that conversation, she referred to you as Kinzo.
これはお前を前にしても同じだ。
It was the same when she spoke to you directly.
彼女はお前を父と思っていると言ったにもかかわらず、父とは呼んでいなかった。
Though she said that she thought of you as a father, she didn't call you a father.
呼ばなかったのか、呼ぶことは許されなかったのか。
She either chose not to call you that, or wait, she either chose not call you that. I think it's missing too, or she wasn't allowed to call you that.
それが意味することは一つしかない。
That can only mean one thing.
それは何だというのか。
And what might that be?
生まれ変わりだ。
Reincarnation.
お前は娘を忘れがたみだとは思わなかった。
You didn't think of your daughter as a child Beatrice left behind.
死んだベアトリーチが新しい体で蘇ったと信じたんだ。
You believed that the dead Beatrice had revived into a new body.
ゲンジ、
Genji?
あんたはかつて夏日たちの前で
Once in the past, you spoke in front of Natsui and several other members.
金蔵とベアトリーチェに子供はいなかったと証言したことがあるな。
Stating that there never was a child between Kinzo and Beatrice.
記憶にございませんが。
I have no memory of saying this. Of course, this game's Genji probably wouldn't remember that. However, near the end of the first game, when the survivors had all gathered in Kinzo's study, Genji was asked whether Kinzo and Beatrice ever had a child together, and he denied it, saying, "I've not heard of anything like that."
聞いたことがないか。ある意味で金蔵の腹心らしい模範的な返答と言える。
That may have been a lie, but in a way it was a model answer for one of Kinzo's confidants.
何しろ金蔵にとってその娘は生まれ変わったベアトリーチェそのものなんだからな。
After all, in Kinzo's eyes, she wasn't a daughter, but Beatrice reborn.
ウィル、
Will,
何の話か分かりませんが、当主様への冒涜は許しません。
I don't know what you're talking about, but I will not let you slander the family head.
冒涜じゃね
This isn't slander.
え、推理
It's reasoning.
だ。だが心は理解する。
However, I understand the heart.
ベアトリーチェはお前にとって最愛の女だった。
In your eyes, Beatrice was the woman you loved most.
死んでも色あせることなく永遠に。
She remained that way even after death, for all eternity, without fading in the slightest.
生まれた時から生まれ変わりだと思っていたわけじゃねえだろ。
I doubt you thought of her as Beatrice reborn at the moment of her birth.
だが美しい金髪に青い瞳を持ち、その面影を幼くして持ち合わせていたその娘に、
However, it wouldn't be strange if you slowly began to wonder whether that child,
お前は次第に生まれ変わりではないかと信じるようになったとしても、
whose blue eyes and beautiful blonde hair reminded you of a younger Beatrice,
それはおかしいことじゃね
might actually be Beatrice reborn.
親方様、
Master,
よろしいのですか。
shall I drag this rude child out? Genji asked Kinzo. For a while, Kinzo hung his head in silence, as though remembering something from his own past.
え。娘は美しく育ち、生き写しになった。
Your daughter grew to be beautiful and nearly identical to her mother.
お前は狂気したろう
You must have been ecstatic.
な。だがそれでお前が全て満たされていたかは怪しい。
However, I doubt you'd be completely satisfied by that alone.
なぜならお前にとってベアトリーチェは生まれ変わりであっても、
After all, though she was Beatrice reborn to you,
当の本人にとってはそうではなかったからだ。
she didn't think of herself that way.
なぜそのようなことがわかるのか。
How can you know that?
本人は自分がベアトリーチェと呼ばれることに違和感を拭えずにいた。
Whenever she was called Beatrice, she got this feeling she couldn't shake away, a feeling like something was out of place.
人は生まれながらに与えられた自分の名前に違和感を覚えることがない。
People never feel anything out of place about the name they were given at the time of their birth.
だが彼女は覚えた。
However, she did have that feeling.
それはベアトリーチェという名が自分のものではないこと。
That
彼女が
must
自覚していたに他ならない。
mean she was aware that the name Beatrice wasn't hers. In Kuwadorian, she asked both Kinzo and Rosa about who she was.
わらわは何者なのか。
Who am I?
皆はわらわのことをベアトリーチェと呼ぶ。
Everyone calls me Beatrice.
それは確かにそなたの言うように偉大な魔女の名前らしい。
And that does indeed seem to be the name of a great witch, as you say.
しかしそれはわらわではないのだ。
But that isn't me.
わらわには魔法など何も使えぬ。
I cannot use any magic.
わらわはその魔女の魂をこの身に封じられているだけなのだ。
I simply have the soul of that witch sealed inside my body.
記憶は
Her memory.
いずれ戻ったのだ。
Whatever returned eventually.
あれは紛れもなくベアトリーチェの生まれ変わり。
She must truly have been Beatrice reborn.
記憶は戻りつつあった。
Her memory was coming back bit by bit.
我が魔術の儀式によってわずかずつではあるが記憶を取り戻しつつあった。
My magical ceremonies were helping her regain her memories one little bit at a time.
当主様。
Head Sama.
驚くことじゃねえ。
Truly delusional. There's no need to be surprised.
これまでのゲームの情報を並べりゃ導かれる。そのままの答えだ。
If you line up the information in all the games so far, this is the obvious answer you get.
上層のベアトリーチェはそれを指して死んで逃れた魔女の魂を逃さず肉の体に捕らえて閉じ込めたと。
High-level Beatrice talked about this. By metaphor, she said that Kinzo refused to let the witch's soul escape even after death.
そして記憶も力も封じられていると例え
And instead caught it and locked it up in a body of flesh. She also said that her power and memory had been sealed.
た。その解釈もこの推理なら筋が通る。
If you match that interpretation of hers to this theory, it all makes sense.
ウィラード様、
Willard-sama,
親方様は偉大なる魔法の儀式により亡きベアトリーチェ様の生まれ変わりとなる器を得たのでございます。
thanks to the powerful magical ceremonies, the master gained a reborn child of the dead Beatrice-sama.
それを否定することはできません。
That cannot be denied.
忘れられない思いも慈しむ感情も否定はしね
I won't deny the stork.
え。そして金蔵がどれだけベアトリーチェという女を深く愛していたかも疑う気はね
And I don't intend to doubt the depths of Kinzo's love for this woman called Beatrice.
え。忘れがたみにどういう愛情を注ぐかは人の勝手だ。
How a man shows his affection for a child whose only living reminder of her mother is no one's business.
育つほどに似ていくその姿に金蔵が愛ゆえに特別な感情を持ったとしても
If she grew to look more and more like Beatrice, and Kinzo's love gave rise to a new special emotion,
俺はそれを人間らしい感情だと思うぜ。
I find that a very human reaction.
お前に
You think
我が愛が理解できるというのか。
you can understand my love?
理解する資格はね
I'm not qualified to understand it.
え。だが否定する資格もね
However, I'm also not qualified to deny it.
ベアトリーチ
Beatrice,
ェ、私を
please
許してくれ。
forgive me. Kinzo sobbed quietly for a while, wiping away his tears. Because of love, he believed she was Beatrice reborn, and raised her that way. However, somewhere in his heart, he might have felt pangs of conscience, telling him that he might be forcing his emotions on someone who wasn't really Beatrice. Then, the Beatrice of Kuwadorian had an unexpected guest, Rosa. That woman simply couldn't believe that she was the Beatrice Kinzo desired. She couldn't stand the fact that she didn't understand who she was. She wanted to escape to the outside world. Oh, don't show it again. Then she fell from the cliff and died.
源氏は表に出せぬその死を内々で処理した。
Genji handled that death, which couldn't become public knowledge, very quietly.
葬式ってのは死者のためにやるんじゃねえ。
Funerals aren't for the dead.
生きてる人間が死んだ人間への未練を断ち切るために行うもんだ。
They exist so that those who are alive can sever their ties with the dead.
それができなかった。
You could never do that.
だからただれたんだ。
That's why it festered within you.
ベアトリーチェ。
Beatrice! Why do I sound like that?
おじい様。
Grandfather,
あんたは愛人の娘。
you lost your mistress's daughter.
いや、ベアトリーチェを二度失った。
No, you lost Beatrice twice.
その悲しみを表に出すことができず、胸の奥に押し込む。
Unable to let that sorrow show on the outside, you kept it locked up in your heart.
それがやがてただれて狂気に変わった。
And it eventually festered and turned to madness.
それが晩年まで異常なまでのオカルト趣味に駆り立てる。
That's what spurred on your abnormally strong interest in the occult in your later years.
Oh! ベアトリーチェ、ベアトリーチェ。
I'm trying my best here. Beatrice! Beatrice!
なぜ
Why?
なぜに二度までも私の前から去るのか。
Why did you leave me twice?
お前の微笑みを、
Your smile.
その美しい髪を、
That beautiful hair.
瞳を、
Those eyes.
私は二度も抱きしめながら、
Why did you die in my arms not once,
なぜに二度も死すのか。
but twice?
それほどまで、
Is that how much?
それほどまでに私を。
How much you?
おお
Ooh. Leon's just standing there. By now, Kinzo wasn't even trying to suppress his sobs. He sometimes scratched his head in anguish, sometimes faced the heavens like an opera singer. He's very dramatic. He's got the dramatic down. Kinzo yelled over and over again, repeating Beatrice's name. At that moment, there was a quiet sound of a door closing. When they turned around, she was already there. Kumasawa had appeared.
そこまでをご存知でしたら、
If they already know that much,
もうすべてをお話ししてもよろしいのではありませんか？
perhaps we can tell them the rest. Question mark. Yes, yes, Kumasawa, tell me everything. Give me all that you've got. Though, if they know that much,
これ以上何も語ることなどないとも思うが、
I don't believe there's anything more to tell.
いいえ、語るべきでございます。
No, we should tell them.
私は女として、
As a woman,
クワドリアンのベアトリーチェ様のお心を誰かに伝えねばと思ってまいりました。
I've always thought that the heart of Coadorian's Beatrice is a story that should be told.
そして、その資格を持つ人間が現れました。
And now, someone has appeared who is worthy to hear it.
今こそ、 すべてを包み隠さずお話しすべき時かと存じます。
I believe that now is the time to tell all, without holding back.
熊沢さんは知っているのですか？
Kumasawa-san, do you know something
ベアトリーチェのことを。
about Beatrice?
知ってるだろう。
Of course she does.
第4のゲームの時、連絡船の船長は熊沢がクワドリアンに出入りしていたことを証言している。
In the fourth game, we have testimony from the ferryboat captain saying that Kumasawa went in and out of Kuwadorian.
おそらく熊沢は屋敷とクワドリアンの双方で異なる勤務シフトを持っていたに違いない。
I'd be willing to bet that Kumasawa had different work shifts at the mansion in Kuwadorian.
若い娘の世話だ。
There was a young girl to be taken care of.
育児経験の豊富な熊沢はさぞ重宝されただろう。
Kumasawa, with her long experience at taking care of children, must have been of immense value.
さようでございます。
That is correct.
乳母であったとおっしゃっていただいてもよろしいかと思います。
You might even call me her witness.
そんな。
No way.
信じられない。
I can't believe it.
本当にウィルさんの話は本当なんですか？
So, everything Will-san is saying is the truth?
はい、
Yes,
事実でございます。
it is a fact.
ベアトリーチェ様のために島の反対側に建てられた秘密の屋敷。
A secret mansion was constructed on the opposite side of the island for Beatrice-sama.
クワドリアンの存在は真実でございます。
Kuwadorian's existence is truth.
金蔵が正妻といつ結婚したかは知らねえが、
I don't know when Kinzo married his official wife.
当時すでに莫大な財産を持ち六軒島を丸ごと買い取った金蔵は、
But at that time, he already had an enormous store of wealth and had bought Rokenjima whole.
交わらぬ2つの屋敷を建ててそこに2つの生活を両立させたんだ。
He then built 2 mansions, set up 2 separate lives. Kinzo's children had also been aware of Kinzo's clandestine eccentricities at the time. It probably hadn't been easy to maintain 2 separate lives. Moreover, Kinzo's wife had been suspicious and had sniffed around all the time.
親方様はお時間の許す限りクワドリアンへ通われました。
The master stayed in Kuwadorian as much as time allowed.
時にはご出張と偽られ何日も滞在され、
He would sometimes pretend to go on a business trip and stay there for several days,
ベアトリーチェ様との生活を大切になさいました。
treasuring the time he spent with Beatrice-sama.
それは親子としての関係だけでなく、
It was not a father-daughter relationship.
亡きベアトリーチェ様への深い愛を垣間見れる心温まるものでございましたとも。
You could sometimes catch a glimpse of his great love for the dead Beatrice-sama, and it was a heartwarming thing.
それは亡きベアトリーチェの代用品として扱ったこともあった
The way you say it makes it sound like he sometimes treated her
と言っているようにも聞こえるな。
as a substitute for the dead Beatrice.
おや、
Oh,
そう聞こえたなら申し訳ございません。
if it sounded that way, my apologies.
ベアトリーチェ様は父からの愛は一心に受けられていたでしょ
Beatrice-sama probably accepted her father's love.
う。しかし時に
However, I will not deny
ご自身に理解できぬ愛を強いられていたことは否定できません。
that she was sometimes forced to bear a love she didn't understand. Kumasawa's tone made it sound as though she was scolding Kinzo. As a mother who had raised many kids, Kumasawa had probably spotted that Kinzo's love was sometimes misplaced. However, the more she grew to look like her mother, the more distorted and twisted Kinzo's heart became. Because of his deep love, it grew very, very twisted. A little bit crazy.
なじれ我が友よ。
You're right to scold me, my friend.
分かっておる。
I understand.
我が愛は永遠に不滅。
My love is eternal and undying.
なれど、それが間違った相手に注がれたことがあったの。
However, I must acknowledge
私は
That I poured that affection
認めねばならぬ。
onto the wrong person.
おじい様、
Grandfather.
そんな、まさか。
Wait, you don't mean
リオン様、
Leon-sama?
世の中のすべての人間には必ず何かの縁がございます。
All humans in this world are tied to each other.
身に覚えがなくとも必ず何かの縁がございます。
Even if they do not notice, there's always some sort of tie.
その縁が人に絡みつき引き寄せるのでございます。
Those ties wrap themselves around people and bring them together.
そんな、
No way.
おじい様。
Grandfather. Just as Kinzo had done, Leon also wiped away tears and stared down at the floor. Apparently, the truth had been too much of a shock for the young successor to handle.
親方様、
Master,
もう語る時ではございませんか。
the time to speak has arrived, has it not?
そうか。
I see.
その時が来たか。我が友よ。
So, that time has come, my friend.
あんたが語らなきゃ
Unless you tell us,
何も真実は明らかにならない。
none of the truth will become clear.
親方様、
Master,
もはや知る権利と資格があるかと思います。
I believe they may have the qualifications and the right to know.
分かっている。
I know.
今日という私の気まぐれな葬儀に天のベアトリーチェが贖罪の機会を与えたのだろう。
Perhaps on this day of my fickle funeral, Beatrice in heaven has given me a chance to atone.
今日まで話さなかったことを許せ。
Forgive me for not telling you this before now. After taking a deep breath, Kinzo finally lowered the hands that had been covering his face, and looked at Will and Leon with those red eyes.
おじい様。
Grandfather,
リオンも聞け。
you listen too, Leon.
客人、
Guest.
ウィラードと言ったか。
Willard, was it?
あ
Yeah.
この私が自らの口より真実を話せるうちにこの機会を設けてくれたことを感謝する。
I thank you for giving me a chance to speak of the truth while I'm still able.
お前はきっとベアトリーチェより使わされた天の使いに違いない。
You must surely be a messenger from heaven sent by Beatrice.
感謝する。
You have my gratitude.
その機会を設けたのはベアトリーチェじゃね
Beatrice isn't the one you have to thank.
え。どこぞの魔女だ。
It was just a witch.
いや、どっちも魔女には違いね。
Well, I guess they're both witches.
お前が誰でもよい。
I do not care who it was.
私に機会を与え
I have been given a chance.
た。それで十分だ。
That is enough.
感謝するぞ、ウィラードとやら。
Thank you, Willard. Kinzo slowly stood up and held out his right hand. He was offering to shake hands. Must have been Kinzo's way of expressing his gratitude. Will responded. Then, two hands gripped each other tightly in silence. When they did, a bright light poured out from the gap between the two hands. Will felt as though something the size of a grain had burned itself into his palm. It was a power that Bernkisto had given him. The light grew brighter and brighter. However, it seemed that Kinzo and the others couldn't see it.
今こそ語ろ
Now, I will speak.
う。私がベアトリーチェに
I met Beatrice.
ベアトリーチェ・カスティリオーニに出会ったのは終戦間際。
Oh, here we go. Last name reveal? Beatrice Castiglione. Just before the end of the war. Beatrice Pizza pasta. Beatrice. That's one spicy meatball.
彼女は海の向こうからやって
She came from across the sea. Beatrice Buco de Beppo. Ah!
お前は金蔵なのか？
Are you Kinzo?
昔のおじい様です。
It's how grandfather looked in the past.
写真で見たことがあります。
I've seen photos.
これは一体
Just what on earth?
ベルン・カステルのくれた感激者の力だ。
It's the theater-going power that Berkestel gave me.
無理に理解するな。
Don't try to understand. Leon's like, what the fuck is going on? And Will's like, don't even worry about it. It's never gonna make any sense.
頭痛になら
I'll just get a headache.
分かってきたな。
You're getting the hang of this. At one time, Genji told Battler that he looked like Kinzo in his youth. Sure enough, though the young Kinzo wasn't exactly the same as Battler, they looked very similar. I need to get a full... Let me get a full look here. Alright. 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 They looked very similar.
改めて名乗ろう。
Allow me to introduce myself again.
私が後宮金蔵である。
I am Nishiromiya Kinzo.
おじい様
Grandfather. Even the voice seemed to resemble Battler somehow. Clearly, Battler had inherited Kinzo's blood more thickly than any other.
私は後宮家など継ぎたくはなかった。
I had no desire to succeed the Ishimiya family headship.
私が当主に選ばれたのは運命のいたずらに過ぎぬのだ。
My being chosen as the head was nothing more than a prank of fate.
関東大震災で主だった者が死に絶え、分家筋のお前が抜擢された。
The Great Kanto earthquake, those in charge passed away, and you were selected from the branch families.
そうです。
That's correct.
おじい様は若くとも聡明な方で、当主にふさわしい貫禄を若くしてお持ちの方でしたから。
After all, grandfather was wise despite his youth, and he already possessed a dignity fitting for the headship.
とんでもない。
Ridiculous.
欲深な長老たちは互いの利益ばかりを主張し合い、新しい当主を選び出すことさえできなかったのだ。
Those greedy elders kept looking out for their own personal interests and couldn't decide on a new head at all.
まるで沈みゆく船で新しき船長は誰かと議論するような愚かさ。
It was as foolish as arguing about who the new captain should be on a sinking ship.
だからこそ本家の誰ともしがらみのないお前が突然に抜擢を受けた。
So, since you had no connections with anyone in the main family, you're selected right out of the blue.
すべてはこの足の指のせいだ。
Not the fucking toes talk again. God damn it. It's all because of my toes.
足の指が一本ずつ足りなかったなら、我が人生は全く異なるものになっていたであろう。
If only I had one less toe on each foot, my life may have turned out quite differently. If only I didn't have 6 toes! In the Ishimiya family, polydactyly Aurora was seen as a mark of good fortune. After all, many of the great ones in their family history had possessed it.
くだらぬ話よ。
It was all very pathetic.
長老どもは自分たちの誰も得をしない馬の骨であれば誰でもよかったのだ。
The elders didn't care whom they dragged in as long as it wouldn't benefit any one of them particularly.
たまたま分家筋に両足の指が6本ある者がいると耳に入り、
So, they just happened to hear that someone in one of the branch families had 6 toes,
それでいいと決まったわけか。
and decided that would do well enough.
そういうことだ。
Precisely.
長老どもは自分たちの操り人形になるなら、次期当主など
The elders didn't care what sort of novice became the next head,
どこの青二歳でもよかったのだ。
as long as it could make him their puppet.
むしろ帝王学に無知な人間ほど好ましい。
In fact, the more this person was ignorant of leadership, the better it would be for them.
おじい様。
Grandfather,
リオン、
Leon,
お前は違う。
it is quite different in your case.
お前は我が全てを受け継ぐ者だ。
You will be the one who inherits everything I have.
お前が生を受けた日より、それは運命づけられていた。
That is the fate you were granted on the day of your birth.
だからこそ、お前に銀の指輪を与え、厳しく育ててきた。
That is why I gave you that silver ring and raised you so strictly.
そなたは私とは違う。
You are quite different from me.
誰にも恥じることのない立派な当主跡継ぎであるぞ。
You are already a splendid successor, of whom no one could be ashamed.
はい。
Yes, sir.
操り人形の当主。
A puppet for a head?
気楽なものじゃねえだろ。
I doubt that could have been easy. As he pondered about where to begin, Kinzo laughed bitterly. It would probably bring back painful memories no matter where he started from.
あれはあまりに長い灰色の日々であった。
It lasted for so long, that span of gray days.
それは私には岩に蒸す苔のような気の遠くなるほど長い
That dizzying,
死んだ時間。
that dizzying stretch of time I had spent dead, like moss growing on a rock. I became the rope in the tug of war between the elders, who thought of nothing but their own profit, and I probably could have snapped at any moment. However, people are far more resilient than one would think. Though I spent so many days as though I had been killed, I was not killed. So, I was forced to search for death on my own. Before I realized it, I had reached an age at which the young would laugh at me if I tried to call myself young. That dizzyingly long stretch of gray was left completely empty. Before I realized I'd reached an age at which the young would laugh at me if I tried to call myself young. True, me, same. It lasted for a full 20 years. In 20 years, a person could be born, find a purpose, and even become their own man with their own place in the world. In short, if one truly becomes a human only when they have become a working adult, then I spent a period of time long enough to create a human, doing nothing but playing the part of those greedy elders' puppet. Ironically, though that time aged my body, it did not age my mind. My mind alone was still as young as it had been during those rich, happy days before I was summoned to Odawara. And yet, my body alone grew older and older. Eventually, vast gap between the two reached almost an incomprehensible levels. So, I could hardly believe that the worn-out man in the mirror was really me. No, it really wasn't me. The head of the Ishimiya family was just a name. It had no power. It didn't require that I have any independence. There was no need for me to get involved with anything. I was just a doll sitting there on the doll rack, gathering dust. I remember nothing but lazily flipping through Western books I liked, locking myself up inside my own world, doing nothing but playing with roses and drinking terrible drinks. And it lasted a full 20 years. Before I knew it, I suddenly had a wife I did not know. It wasn't any wife I had chosen. It was the daughter of some noble family that the elders had chosen and forced on me for their own reasons. But that did not matter to me. I did not love my wife, but neither did I dislike her. I just didn't care. I fathered a few children, but that wasn't out of love for my wife. They were just born before I knew it. That's all there was to it. none of it mattered. No, that's not quite right. Everything was decided by someone other than me, and I simply obeyed. That was the job of the Ishimiya family head.
ああ、このまま自分は静かに殺されるなと、うっすらと感じていた。
Yes. On some level, I did feel as though I was being slowly and quietly killed.
信じられません。
I can't believe it.
強胆なる名君と称えられたおじい様がそのような日々を送っていたなんて。
To think that you, the one who has been praised for being such a bold and wise ruler, lived like that for so long.
リオンよ。
Leon.
自ら生きぬ人生ほど希薄で長いものはない。
There is nothing so long and faint as a life you do not live for yourself.
なのに、それはあっという間に過ぎ去るのだ。
And yet, it slides on. It slides on by in the blink of an eye.
心せよ。
Do not forget this.
自ら生きる人生。
A life you live for yourself?
生きるってことは意志を持つということだ。
Living means having your own will.
殺された日々だったろうよ。
You probably were dead during that time.
そうだ。
Precisely.
私は生きたかった。
I wanted to live.
いや、死にたかった。
No, I wanted to die.
操り人形はどうすれば死ねる？
How can a puppet die?
糸を断ち切ることです。
By cutting the strings.
そうだ。
Correct.
それが死ぬことであり、生きることであり。
That would be death, and it would also be life.
解放だ。
Since it would mean being free. Before I realized it, trouble was brewing in the world. World War II. Pacific War. Japan had extended their war fronts too far to the east and west, and the tide of war was changing. Thanks to the influence of the elders, I was able to avoid conscription. Of course, this was not out for compassion for me. It was because I was their precious puppet. So, the war never really felt that close to me. However, when I personally decided to abandon their protection, it was very easy. At that time, the Ishimiya family had almost completely collapsed. Since the elders had apparently gathered enough of the scraps to last them the rest of their lives, they seemed to care little for what I did, now that they no longer had any use for me. So, I realized that I had finally found my time to die. One by one, I cut the threads I was hanging from, and began to search for a place to end my life.
戦地で死を求めようとしたのか。
So, you search for death on the battlefield?
同じ死ぬなら、誰かの役に立つべきと思った。
I thought that if I was going to die anyway, I should try to be of some use to my country.
いや、違うな。
No, that's a lie.
私には自らの命を絶つ気力さえなかったのだろ
I probably just lacked the willpower to end my own life.
う。もっともらしく死ねる理由が戦争だったのだ。
War was a suitable excuse for death.
おじい様は土木建築の知識がありましたので。
I heard that grandfather had knowledge necessary for public works projects and construction.
海軍設営隊にて施設造成などに従事されたと聞いています。
So he was tasked with setting up facilities for the Navy construction team.
とんだ誤算よ。
What a foolish mistake that was.
何の取り柄もないと言っておけば、すぐにも死ねる最前線へ送られたものを。
If only I had just said that I had no useful skills, I could have been sent to the dangerous front lines right away.
最前線に行かずに済んだのか。
So, you didn't need to go to the front lines?
幸いと喜ぶ仲間もいたよ。
Some of the others were overjoyed at their luck.
私には逆だった。
It was the opposite for me.
戦って死ぬという出来すぎた美酒の焼け酒が欲しかっただけなのだ。
I'd only wanted to get drunk on the liquor known as dying for the sake of one's country.
忘れられた島の上空を米軍の編隊は横切っていくだけ。
The US planes did nothing but cut across the skies of that forgotten island.
彼らは私のために爆弾一つどころか 鉛玉の一つさえ恵んではくれなかったのだよ。
They didn't even have a bullet to spare for me, much less a bomb.
おじい様はその日々の中でベアトリーチェにお会いになられたのですか？
Is this the time you met Beatrice, grandfather?
そうだ。
Correct.
あれは海からやってきた。
She came to me from the sea.
どこで会った？
Where did you meet her?
島と言ったが。
You mentioned an island?
ここだよ。
Yes, this island.
この島にやってきたのだ。
That's where she arrived.
お前たちは六軒島で出会っていたというのか。
So, you met here? On Rokenjima?
どういうことですか？
What's going on?
おじい様が六軒島を買い取るまでは無人島だったと聞いています。
I heard that Rokenjima was uninhabited until you bought it, grandfather.
この島に日本軍の基地があったなどとは初耳です。
I never knew there was a Japanese military base here.
そうだな。あんなものは基地とは呼ばぬ。
Ah, yes. You could hardly call that a military base.
ただの岩窟よ。
It was just a cave.
私はその岩窟の番人だったのだ。
I was one of the guards of that cave. (1944) Due to the honorable defeats at Saipan and Guam, Japan's absolute national defense zone strategy was in shambles. Where had the gallantry shown at Pearl Harbor gone? The old attacks were now the ones on the defensive. The old attackers, were now the ones on the defensive. At the time, it was said that the last trump card for the Japanese military was a type of manned torpedo known as the kaiten. It was said that these ultimate weapons, packed with 1.55 tons of explosives, were capable of sinking any kind of warship with a single blast. To strengthen homeland defense, the Navy drafted a plan to build a string of hidden bases from Hachijo Island to Yokosuka, all to house submarines loaded with Kaiten torpedoes. Try my best here. I knew that there was a Kaiten base constructed on Hachijo Island. But was there actually one on Rokenjima too?
どこの間抜けがこんな何もない島に作ろうと言い出したやら。
What fool decided it would be a good idea to plant a base on this desolate island?
秘匿上の都合
To better preserve its secrecy?
バカバカしい。
Ridiculous.
お上の考えることなどわからぬし、私にとってもどうでもいいことだった。
I can never understand what the higher-ups are thinking, and I didn't particularly want to. The Kaiten, which could finish off a large warship with a single strike, truly was an ultimate weapon. It was hoped that the presence of submarines capable of loading these weapons in the waters just off of Japan would allow for a powerful sea ambush as a final line of defense. So, to aid in the establishment of a base with absolute secrecy, the uninhabited island Rokenjima was raised as a possible candidate. An investigation of the island resulted in the discovery of a large cave in the cliffs, and this was apparently deemed to be a suitable location for a submarine base.
お前はその基地の建設に関わったわけか。
So, you were tasked with aiding in the establishment of that base?
建設
Establishment?
岩窟を掘り広げただけを建設と呼ぶならな。
Certainly, if you can call digging out a cave establishment.
しかもその上、基地は未完成のまま放置されたのだから。
Not only that, the base was abandoned before its completion.
どうしてです？
Why?
当時の日本にそいつを詰めるほどの大型潜水艦はもう残っていなかったのよ。
Because at that time, Japan no longer had any submarines large enough to transport a Kaiten torpedo.
滑稽な話だ。
How truly laughable.
潜水艦もないのに潜水艦基地など今さら必要なものか。
What's the point in having a submarine base if there aren't any submarines left?
役人の無意味な箱物作りは今も昔も変わらぬわ。
If there's one thing that never changes, it's politicians and their meaningless projects. The base on Hachijo Island was outfitted with Kaiten torpedoes and became a base for direct attacks. But Rokenjima was never supplied with any. Furthermore, construction was eventually suspended, and a minimum number of men were stationed on the island, waiting for orders from above that never came. Could the fact that it was a hidden base actually have sealed our fate? The higher-ups had already completely forgotten about this useless and pointless cavern. We were nothing more than guards for a mere cave. We spent our days farming, fishing, and playing with the dirt, all the while gazing up at the American formations flying past. Some of our group were relieved at the prospects of the war ending before anyone remembered we were here, and before any of us had to face a real battle. Of course, it was the opposite for me. I hoped and hoped for the American troops to advance and kill me as soon as possible. Those days were empty and blank. Let us go back. Back to the turning point in my life and my fate. The time that Ishiro Kinzo finally became truly alive. Let's go back. Okay, I still want to keep going tonight. I just need to do a little BRB very quickly. I need to restock water and all that as well. So give me just a couple minutes here and we'll be right back. I'll throw up a BRB and I'll be back, like I said, just a few minutes here. Okay, I'm back. Bring the game back up on my screen, Mr. Streamer Man. All right, let's see. Let's see if we can get another hour out of me or so. Step it up. I'll raise my mic here just slightly. What are you doing? Slacking off when fighting so close. Stars seemed to spin around inside my head. I could just lie down on the floor, but that'd only make him more angry. I've got no intention of being obedient. Still, it'd be stupid to get myself punched for no reason, so I got up and stood at attention. Kinzo origin story. The fighting's close, is it? You really think the American troops are likely to show up on this forgotten island? Then let them come right now. That's what I've been waiting for all this time. What's this cowardly look you're wearing? Is this how afraid you are of death? Are you so scared of those Americans? Sorry, Mr. Disembodied voice, but it's quite the opposite, actually, for him. You won't be killing any of them with an attitude like that. I got hit again. Could you please quit your whining already? Filthy cowards. They let themselves be controlled by this inexplicable anger because it's the only way to distract themselves from their own fear. Heart and spirit aren't of any use when the battle becomes hopeless. When trapped by an insurmountable hopelessness, humans tend to rely on several other emotions to escape their fear. For these young, inexperienced soldiers, anger was a very convenient emotion to fall back upon. Anger is the wine they used to paralyze their fear. It made them chant, "Damn the British, damn the Americans," as they swung their bamboo spears around and called it drilling. The more wine you drink, the more you need to drink to get drunk. Their useless anger continued to pile up day after day without pause. I did not fear death, so I had no need for the wine called anger. This made their cowardice all the more apparent to me. What's that look on your face? Mishiromiya, you've lost your nerve down to your very soul. You're a fish. That's what you are. Blub blub. You've got the eyes of a dead fish. However, it went both ways. Just as I was able to spot their cowardice, they were able to pick up on my lethargy. Is Ishiromiya Kinzo here? The lieutenant's looking for you. Stand up! No slouching about. Double time! First Lieutenant Yamamoto was the commanding officer in charge of the Rokenjima garrison. He was just another filthy coward trying to forget his fear with violence. He would often reprimand his subordinates for slacking off at the drop of a hat. Whenever he was in a good mood and started spouting off... Oh, this place looks familiar. Whenever he was in a good mood and started how could I forget this location? How could I? In a good mood and started spouting off stories of his life. They were all about how much of a thug he had been, ignoring the rules of society. On and on about how so-and-so was a prick, so he taught him a lesson, or how everyone was so scared of him that he got special treatment. Kept on talking about what a vile human he was, though it was a badge of honor. Normally, I had nothing to do with this lieutenant who I couldn't respect in any way. He'd always hang around with his non-commissioned subordinates. So as long as I treated him with a snappy salute, I could more or less ignore him for the time being. Not that the construction project on the island had been suspended indefinitely, there's no longer any use for an engineer like me. So, why did the lieutenant ask to see me specifically? At that moment, I couldn't think of anything. Ah, Ishiromiya. I hear you're good with foreign languages. Is that true? Is that true? I am proficient in both English and Chinese, sir. The lieutenant liked to brag about his education in front of the non-commissioned officers, but he held a bit of a grudge against me for being even more highly educated than him. Since he also felt uncomfortable about having a subordinate who was older than him, I wasn't exactly the type he'd be willing to confide in. Just the fact that I knew several languages must have hurt his pride. What about Italian? I don't speak that. So, you wouldn't be much help as an interpreter between me and an Italian person, would you? Oh no. Is Miss Gascleone or whatever Pizza Peony gonna appear? It should be possible if they can speak English as well. Ah, yes, very true. Have you ever talked with a foreigner in English? I have. Why on earth would you need an interpreter in a cave on an uninhabited island that even our superiors forgot about? This question made it clear that some guests had arrived on Rokenjima who would need an interpreter. Good. Ishiromiya, you'll be my interpreter. That's an order. That evening, found out exactly what he was talking about. This is interesting. A pointless submarine dock in the cavern that had never been used was now being approached slowly by a submarine of the Italian Navy. Of course, I knew that the Italians were our allies. However, this was the first time I'd seen anything from their military with my own eyes. What was the Italian Navy doing here? Didn't Italy surrender in 1943? What's going on? It was the Kingdom of Italy that surrendered. However, those who couldn't accept that surrender joined Mussolini and formed the RSI so that they could continue fighting. The RSI? The Italian Social Republic. Also known as the Salo Republic. You know your history. The ignorant often call the Italians cowards, saying that they surrendered first of the Axis powers in 1943. That's not true. The military of the Italian Social Republic fought bravely from the outbreak of war until April 29, 1945. And Berlin fell just 3 days after that. Far from being cowards, they gave one hell of a fight. Still, surprised the RSI Navy even had possession of a submarine that could travel all the way to Japan. Even if they did, it's a surprise that they'd come out this far at all. Why would they come to Japan? To Rokenjima? The submarine was both weather-worn and massive. I doubt anyone had even imagined that a foreign submarine would come all the way out here, when we never even had one of our own submarine When we never even had one of our own submarines docked. All of the guards on Rokenjima, of which there were only about 30, stood at attention as the submarine docked. Never seen the Italian military before. I heard a mine or some accident trashed their sub. From what I heard, it sounds like their ventilator broke down and the cabin got packed with chlorine gas.
何か重要なものを運んでるって話だ。
The lieutenant was hinting about there being something very important in there.
暗号変換器か新型エンジンなんかの設計図じゃないのか。
You mean like a code machine or the blueprints or some kind of engine?
オラ積みにうんぬんより上層部がまだここを覚えててくれたことの方が驚きだぜ。
I couldn't care less what they're carrying. I'm more surprised that the higher ups still remember we exist.
後ろ宮、早く来い。
Hurry up, Yoshiromiya.
貴様は通訳だろうが。
How are you supposed to interpret from over there?
はい、注意殿。
Yes, sir. Atop the hatch was a young Italian saluting us. Normally, this should have been the job of a commissioned officer, but his clothes looked like those of a sailor, and it really didn't look like he had the dignity and composure of a ship's captain. That probably meant that all the commissioned officers in charge had died in the accident that had befallen the sub. Crew members crawled out of the hatch one by one, but they all looked pale and entirely worn out. I'm not sure how long ago the accident happened, but being crammed together in a tiny sub filled with chlorine gas for any amount of time can't be good for your health. Not only had the ventilators broken, but traveling about carelessly on the surface of the waters around Japan these days would be foolish in the extreme. It had been like a trip inside a can of poison gas. Almost all of them were unable to walk without leaning on someone else. It looked like a bunch of people staggering out of a hospital boat.
後ろ宮、
Ishiromiya,
艦長は誰か聞け。
ask them who the captain is.
私がこの島の指揮官であることを説明せよ。
Tell them that I'm in charge of this island.
ようこそ日本へ。
Welcome to Japan.
英語がわかる者は。
Do any of you speak English? Crew members seemed to understand that I was speaking English, but it looked as though none of them could speak it. Eventually, someone who seemed to be dressed as an officer saluted.
ようこそ日本へ。
Welcome to Japan.
艦長でありますか。
Are you the captain?
I can not speak English.
I cannot speak English.
Please wait.
Please wait. 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 It's like those stop things. What am I trying to say? The voices at the crossing voice. Crossing light. The officer answered in slow, laborious English. After asking us to wait, he shouted something to his subordinates in rapid Italian. It looked as though he was telling them to get someone among them who could speak English.
後ろ宮、何と言っている。
Ishiromiya, what are they talking about?
待てと言っています。
They've asked us to wait.
英語のわかる人間を呼んでいるのかもしれません。
They might be looking for someone there who can speak English. At that moment, I heard a high-pitched cough. It wasn't a man's cough. It was a woman's.
私英語わかるわ。
It's Italian version Beatrice. I speak English. As she came down from the hatch, a woman with beautiful golden hair said this in English. In this filthy cavern, the appearance of one as beautiful as she was seemed like an angel descending upon us.
ようこそ日本へ。
Welcome to Japan.
艦長はいますか。
Is the captain there?
艦長は死んだわ。
The captain is dead.
士官はあそこの彼だけよ。
That man over there is the only officer left.
お悔やみ申し上げます。
My condolences.
何かお手伝いはできますか。
Can we do anything to assist you?
新鮮な空気と水が欲しいわ。
We'd like some fresh air and water.
まだ息のある人間もいる。
Some of us are still having trouble breathing.
休ませる場所が欲しいわ。
And we'd like a place to rest. I can't shake it. The CG looks exactly like an image you would get after getting the correct path in like a pretty stereotypical like dating sim. Like down to like the detail and the lighting and then like the tiltedness of it. You know what I mean? It's like I said the right things to like a Beatrice dating sim thing. And I unlocked like the CG like halfway through her path. I did good. And we'd like a place to rest.
協力しましょう。
We'd be happy to help.
他に英語のわかる人間はいますか。
Do any of the others understand English?
いたけどみんな死んだわ。
Me. the dating sim video game expert here. The ones who did are all dead.
私だけよ。
I'm the only one left.
後ろ宮、女は何を言っている？
Ishiromiya, what's the woman talking about?
艦長は誰だ？さっきの男なのか？
Who's the captain? The man from a second ago.
その女は何者なのか？早く通訳しろ！
Who is that woman? Get translating already, goddammit! Lieutenant had been yelling like that for a while now. He must have been surprised to see such a beautiful woman appear from a submarine, and more than a little annoyed to see all of her attention focused on me alone. It was a mark of how divinely beautiful she was.
注意殿。
Sir,
彼女だけが英語をわかるようです。
it seems that she's the only one who understands English.
彼女が彼らの通訳になります。
She will act as our interpreter.
艦長は死亡。
Their captain is dead.
代表者は先ほどの士官のようです。
That officer seems to be acting in his place.
あのうるさくあなたに叫んでいる男は何者？
Who's that loud man who keeps yelling at you?
まさかあなたの上司なの？
Don't tell me he's your superior.
不幸なことに。
Unfortunately, he is.
私が美しい
Yeah,
お
let's
嬢さんを
shit talk him in a
独り占めしてい
different
るのは
language.
気に入らないんでしょう。
He probably doesn't like seeing me have such a beautiful lady all to myself. Ah, look at that! Look how smooth this line is! Fucking you go, Kinzo! This is what the kids call Riz, right? This is what the kids call Riz. Kinzo knows what he's doing, slipping in that line right there. You gotta applaud. Sorry, I need some water.
あら、
Oh?
東洋人にお世辞をもらえるとは思わなかったわ。
I didn't expect flattery from an Asian.
綺麗な英語ね。
Your English is superb.
あなたは育ちが良さそうだわ。
I imagine you've been brought up very well.
あの怒鳴ってるみっともない男とは大違い。
Unlike that rude man who keeps on shouting.
あなたがここの将校だったらよかったのに。
They should have made you the officer in charge around here.
おや、
Oh?
私も西洋人にお世辞をもらえるとは思いませんでした。
And I never expected flattery from a Westerner. Honestly, well, how am I gonna put this? I was gonna say something along the lines of like, she was apparently cramped in a tiny ass submarine, just being like essentially poisoned by chlorine gas constantly. You just get a bit of fresh air. Someone just speaks a language you can understand. You're probably immediately just like, holy shit. The world is so much better. And this person is a part of it. I can breathe fresh air all of a sudden. And this man speaks a language I can sort of understand. And he's got jokes. What could be better than this? Honestly.
あなたは面白い人だわ。
So I don't blame her. You're an interesting man.
名前は？
What's your name?
後宮金蔵です。
Ishiromiya Kinzo. Reminded all the people on the submarine can also speak Italian, which she speaks. Yeah, but that's the thing. That I mean, they're co-workers essentially. You know what I mean? You can't. It's different. You see someone. If you're saying counteracting with what I was saying about the speaking of the language or whatever, I'm saying this is a new person. You get out of this poison tube, basically. You get a breath of fresh air, and you see a new person. A person of interest that can communicate effectively. And then must I go back to the smooth line? Huh? Huh? Any lady would... any lady's knees would become weak after this. Things. Things girls like a language she understands and air. If you don't mind, may I ask for your name as well? Non-poisonous air. Yeah, that's a good clarification. The line reminds me of Battler. True. We talked about. I mean, it was mentioned a little while ago in this episode. Like, oh, Battler really. As I said, I noticed at the time. I thought it was a kind of a weird way to describe it, but it was like really thickly, like got his blood thick, his thick blood. He got a thick amount of that Kinzo blood in him. I think it was based on like appearance and everything as well. Yeah, maybe it comes down to the smoothness too. You know? The charmer type. If you don't mind, may I ask for your name as well?
Beatrice Castiglione.
Me pronouncing Italian names. Can't be any worse than my Japanese pronunciations. Beatrice Castiglione. Castiglione. I think the G is pretty silent. Castiglione. Welcome, Beatrice. Welcome to Japan. I think I have some Italian blood in me, but I don't honestly know. I don't fucking know. I don't know anything. That was when I first met Beatrice, the woman who would capture my heart for the rest of my life. So, Beatrice wasn't Italian? Yes. She was the daughter of the high-ranking RSI official. See? And the opposite is true, what you're saying, right? The lieutenant must be seething. The opposite, what I was saying, right? I was saying earlier, Beatrice, she emerges from a poison tube, and she's like, oh my god, I'm enamored immediately with this person who can speak to me. But like, but yeah, the same is true. The high-ranking official man goes like, ah shit, I'm supposed to be the hotshot here. I'm above him, and yet I can't speak a language that she can understand. Therefore, I'm losing. I know what the women like. Yes, she was the daughter of the high-ranking RSI official. Apparently, their most important cargo was her father himself. Sadly, he had already died by the time they reached Rokkenjima. Why would a high official like that come to Japan? You're saying he went through the Suez Canal and crossed the Indian Ocean to come all the way here? That's a good point. If they wanted to reach one of their allies, Germany should have been much closer. So why would they make the long trip to Japan? It may have been part of some grand, outrageous strategy. I don't know all the details. But shortly after, I learned that the submarine's mission was far from a minor one. They said that there had been about 60 of them at the time of their departure. However, only about 10 of them, including Beatrice, had survived. Their submarine had apparently hit a mine or something in the nearby waters and sustained a great deal of damage. They told us that it had flooded rapidly with water, which had taken out the batteries and released a large amount of chlorine gas. Their sub had become completely incapable of continuing further, nothing but a massive lump of metal floating by the dock. Since the sub seemed to be carrying something of immense value, the higher-ups ordered us to investigate. After questioning the Italians, with Beatrice and me acting as double interpreters, we concluded that this thing of immense value must have been her father himself. Apparently, Beatrice's father was extremely high up in the RSI hierarchy, and it was thought that he might have worked alongside Mussolini himself. Though their massive voyage had apparently been part of some top-secret mission, now that the man himself and all the commissioned officers had died, the reason for coming to Japan remained a mystery. And our higher-ups were telling us to investigate, which meant that even they didn't know what it was. Their ship had broken down, their mission was unknown, and the high official they had been carrying was dead. And even the Japanese government didn't know why they were here. The Italians' great and perilous voyage had come to a meaningless and utterly fruitless end. That's a relief.
日本の潮風はてっきり醤油の匂いがすると思ってたわ。
I always assumed the seas of Japan would smell like soy sauce. Come on, Beatrice. What are you?
お互い様です。
What a coincidence. Please say that. Please say something like you thought the lands of Italiano just as a bunch of calzones and sauces.
イタリア人の神はパスタ。
Yeah, there we go. Good enough. I've always thought Italians had hair made of pasta.
あら、そうよ。
Of course we do.
アルデンテに仕上げるには茹で加減が難しいの。
You don't know how hard it is to get that perfect al dente texture.
なら日本人はみんなスパゲティネーロだわ。
I imagine you Japanese all wear spaghetti al nero?
よくご存知で。
I see you've done your homework.
日本人はシャンプーの代わりにイカスミを使います。
In Japan, we use squid ink instead of shampoo. I know we were just talking about it, but damn. And I know it's like fully intentional, especially with how they made young Kinzo look exactly like Battler. But it does, if you just don't think that this is like Kinzo, this is just like Battler. This is exactly the types of lines and mannerisms that Battler would be employing at this moment. Kya ha ha. You really are amazing, Kinzo. Seems you know everything. Have you really been to Italy?
ありません。
Never.
しかし、本はいろいろと読みました。
I've read a lot of books, though.
東洋人がイタリアの本を?
An Asian man reading Italian books?
へえ、例えばどんな?
Wow, what kind of books? What kinds of books? Niccolo Machiavelli.
Dante Alighieri.
And Dante Alighieri.
だからあなたが永遠の淑女であることも存じていますよ。
So I know, of course, that you're the eternal lady.
おお、なんてこと。
Oh, what a surprise.
金蔵はとんでもない勉強家だわ。
You must be quite the bookworm.
あなたはひょっとして日本では高貴な家の出身なのでは?
Does this mean you came from some Japanese noble family?
さあ、
Who knows? Who
あ
knows?
なたは他の野蛮そうな日本人とはまるで違うわ。
You're completely different from those other savage-looking Japanese soldiers. Oh, jeez.
私にはわかるの。
I can tell.
あなたはきっと高貴な家の人間だわ。
You must have come from a noble family.
後ろ宮家は日本の貴族の家柄なの?
Are the Ishinomiya some sort of Japanese aristocrats?
とんでもない。
Of course not.
宝石で一山当てただけのただの成金の一族です。
They just managed to strike it rich in the spinning industry in recent generations.
私が勉強していたのは高貴なるものとしてのたしなみではなく、
I didn't study all that as part of some noble's hobby.
何をすることも許されなかったら
I just did it because I wasn't allowed to do anything except read.
本を読むか、バラをいじるか、
Play around with roses.
酒に溺れるかしかやることがなかったからですよ。
And get myself drunk. There had been no trace of malice in Beatrice's words. It had just been a curious question asked to a friend from a faraway country. However, Beatrice was from a noble family herself, so she could tell. She could see the faint, gloomy look on Kinzo's face.
許して金蔵
Forgive me, Kinzo.
あなたのような高貴な人がどうしてこんなおかしなところで兵卒の身分に甘んじているのか
I didn't stop to consider why a high-class person like you
深く考えなかったわ
would choose to take the position of a common soldier.
私の一族などどうでもいいことです。
I don't give a damn about my family line.
死ねば後ろ宮などという姓は何の意味もない。
When I die, the name Ishinomiya will have no hold on me.
そしてそれこそが
Then,
ようやく私を解き放ってくれるのです。
then I'll finally be free.
金蔵は死にたくて軍隊に
So, you joined the army because you wanted to die?
そんなのダメ
You mustn't do that.
家族が悲しむわ
Your family would be so sad.
家族など
Family?
私には
I have no family. I have a wife for the sake of public appearances, and children. However, I've never wanted any of them. Everything is a fleeting daydream created by those selfish, greedy elders. So, at least while I'm on this island, I can forget about all of that and find some peace. Peace? But haven't I spent each and every day complaining that I wasn't sent to the front and haven't managed to die yet?
私にあなたの苦しみはわからないけれど私の心ない言葉が傷つけてしまったことはわかるわ
I can't understand the pain you're going through, but I do realize that my thoughtless words have hurt you.
許して金蔵
Forgive me, Kinzo. Forgive me, Kinzo. Yes, those words are probably what did it. All of the Japanese called me Ishinomiya. It reminded me that I was the property of the Ishinomiya family every time they talked to me. But she was different. She called me Kinzo, not Ishinomiya. So maybe, just for the time I chat with her like this, I can forget that cursed family.
金蔵
Kinzo. Hadn't meant to make Beatrice feel guilty, but she seemed certain that her thoughtless words had hurt me.
ありがとう。
Thank you. Huh?
あなたが私を金蔵と呼んでくれるから私はやっと自分を取り戻すことができる。
Since you always call me Kinzo, I finally feel like I'm my own man.
私はようやく本当の意味で私を見てくれる人に出会えた気がします。
I think that I finally met a person who truly sees me for who I am.
金蔵
Kinzo,
あなたはとても遠い異国で出会った外国人だけれど
you may be a foreigner I met in a distant land,
あなたの心はとても繊細で美しい
but I can tell that your heart is sensitive and beautiful.
私たちはきっと近所に住んでいたならとても当たり前な友人になっていたわ
If we had grown up in the same neighborhood, I'm sure we would have become fast friends.
私も嬉しいのよ
I'm happy to.
あなたは私のことをベアトリーチェと呼ぶ
You always call me Beatrice,
カスティリオーニのご令嬢とは呼ばないわ
not the daughter of the Castiglione family. We were both in the same position. Her Castiglione family must have been a rigid place as well. Though we came from different countries, we had finally found something that we both understood.
金蔵は親しい者にはなんて名前で
Do you have a nickname that people close to you use?
いえ
No.
普通に金蔵と呼ばれていました。
They usually just called me Kinzo.
じゃああなたは私をベアトリーチェと呼ぶのを改めるべきだわ
Well then, you should stop calling me Beatrice. They were absolutely made for each other. Yeah, dude, it's a true story of love. At first, she was just overwhelmed and smitten by the fact of fresh air and the fact that they could speak a common language. She was like, there's something beyond that for this man. I can't believe it. true romance.
親しい人間は私のことをビーチェと呼んでいた。
All of my close friends used to call me Biche. Biche.
あなたもそうしてくれると嬉しいわ。
I would like you to call me that too.
わかりました。
Very well.
これからは親しみを込めてビーチェとお呼びを。
Oh no, Automod. Wait, how else was it being said? It wasn't, or is that just beachy? Beachy? That sounds bad too. Beach. Very well. From this point onwards, allow me to call you Bice. How about we say a Bice? Bice as a sign of our friendship.
ダメダメ。
Ah, come on.
堅苦しい言葉はダメ。
Don't be all stiff like that. How adorable, though. She's giving him a pet, like, not a pet name necessarily, I guess, but more like a, you know, all my best friends call me this name.
だって私たちはもう友人なのだから。
We're already friends, okay? A bright smile stretched across Beatrice's face.
あの美少があれから何十年を経ようとも
No matter how many decades pass,
我が記憶より薄れることはない。
This is a topic we've brought up on the channel here for many streams in this game, but the fact that this game tries its hardest to paint this picture of all these characters as generally pretty shitty people a lot of the time, and then try later at some point later on in the story to be like, and this is some of their backstory, and this is why they're so passionate about certain people or topics or things happening or whatever. I will say, so far it hasn't been much, but this whole Kinzo backstory meeting of Beatrice here, even though I know Kinzo is a terrible person, and even worse will probably be revealed. Qualifier statements. It is nice to see. All right, this was the moment. These were the fateful meetings. No matter how many decades pass, that smile will never fade from my memory.
おじい様はベアトリーチェと出会うことで自分を取り戻されたのですね。
I'm not trying to defend the man, all right? I don't need people. I'm not trying to defend the man, all right? I'm just saying. If anything, I'm praising the game and the storytelling techniques of the game. It does a good job of humanizing the shitty people, all right? So, by meeting Beatrice, you managed to regain your sense of self. I mean, we're literally being told about Kinzo, and he's talking about to these almost practically strangers in some of these cases, and he's like, all right, I'll tell you the origins here. I hated my family, the ties to my family, the positions they put me in. I wanted to fucking kill myself, but I was too much of a coward to kill myself, so then I went into the war. Couldn't die in that situation, got sent to a shitty island, and then I saw a light. I'm just delaying. I'm just delaying. I'm delaying. Tactical delaying. Okay. Or, as most people would put it, he cheated on his wife.
ウィルさんは今後も出現を繰り返されるなら お尻をかばわれる癖をつけることをお勧めします。
If you plan to continue being rude, I suggest you get in the habit of covering your butt. After having his butt pinched once more, Will hopped around in pathetic agony.
おじい様にとってロッケン島は
So, in your eyes, grandfather?
ベアトリーチェと初めて出会われた特別な場所だったのですね。
Rokujima was always special because you first met Beatrice here. Indeed.
私がこの島に来ることがなければ出会うこともなかった奇跡の島なのだ。
If I'd never come to this island, I would never have met her. Truly is an island of miracles.
その潜水艦基地の名残とやらは今も残っているのか？
Is there anything left of that submarine base today?
クワドリアンの近くに今も残っている。
Yes, it's still there, near Kowadori.
外界からは見えぬ入り江の影だ。
It's in the shadows of a cove that can't be seen from the outside.
吹き継がって漁師たちも近寄らなかった島だ。
After all, fishermen never approach this supposedly ill-omened island.
私以外に知る者はもはやいるまい。
It's unlikely that anyone besides me still knows of its existence.
クワドリアンと屋敷を結ぶ2キロにも及ぶ地下道はその基地の名残なのか？
Is a 2-kilometer-long underground passage between Kodorian and the mansion a remnant of that base?
そうだ。
That is correct.
鍾乳洞を改造した広大な地下壕で地下を網羅し。
There was some nonsense about fortifying several locations across the island and connecting them with tunnels carved out of limestone caverns.
島内各地を要塞化する。などという寝言の残骸だ。
I made use of that underground passage and built 2 mansions.
私はその地下道を生かし、島の両端に2つの屋敷を作らせたのだ。
One at each end of the island.
2つの屋敷、2つの家族。
2 mansions. 2 families.
後宮家の屋敷と後宮家から解放された金蔵の屋敷だったのですね。
The Ishumiya family mansion and a mansion for the Kinzo released from the shackles of the family.
そうだ。
Correct.
私には必要だったのだ。
It was something I needed. Let me see this. Small detail I don't think I mentioned. One reason the base is kept hidden from the outside world is that people come to Rokujima from Nijima, the mainland, while the base would probably face to open seas to better deploy submarines. Ah, good point. Good point. That makes sense.
後宮という呪われた生から逃れるもう一つの場所が。
Another place for me to escape from the cursed name of Ishiromiya.
しかし同情するよ。
Still, I do feel bad for you.
はるばる日本までやってきて任務を成し遂げられなかったとは気の毒の限りだ。
It must be awful to have come all the way out here, be unable to fulfill your mission.
パパの任務が何だったかよくわからないわ。
I don't really know what Papa's plan was.
どこか遠くへ逃げ、大切な日までそれを隠さなければならないと言っていた。
He said we needed to run far away to hide it until the time came.
それとは
And what is it?
わからないわ。
I don't know.
それはとても大切なもので、
It was something very important.
大切な日まで何年も隠しているつもりだったみたい。
And he planned to hide it for many years until the right moment.
いえ、それと一緒に隠れているつもりだったみたい。
Oh, and he planned to hide himself along with it.
私に異国の地で長い時間を過ごすことになるかもしれないと謝っていたから。
I know because he apologized to me for sending us to live a long time on foreign soil.
アンジェロ少尉は積み荷は特になく
Didn't that second lieutenant of yours say that you had no cargo in particular?
君の父上が輸送すべき要人だったと言っていたが
And that you were transporting your father instead?
少尉はあなたたちを信用してないわ。
Lieutenant Angelo doesn't trust you or the others.
私でさえ知っていることをいくつも隠してる。
Even I know a few things he's kept hidden from you.
ひょっとすると少尉はパパの目的と積み荷を知っているのかも。
He might even know what Papa's goal was and what the cargo is.
それが何だったにせよ、それはイタリア軍の任務さ。
Whatever it is, that's a mission for the Italian military.
俺らには関係ないね。
It has nothing to do with us.
むしろ同盟国なんだ。
After all, we're allies.
頼ってくれればいいのに。
We should be able to trust each other.
金蔵が良い人であることは疑わないわ。
I have no doubts that you're a good person, Kinzo.
少尉にもあなたは信頼できる人間だと伝えてるんだけれど。
I even told Lieutenant Angelo that you're a man we can trust, but
どうして男というのは異教ではむやみやたらと厳格になるの？
why is it that men always get so rigid and uptight when they're in a strange land?
普段はみんなもっと陽気な人たちばかりなのに。
Normally, they're all very bright and cheery people.
ここへ来てからみんな妙に空気が張り詰めているわ。
Ever since we came here, there's been this strange feeling of tension.
少尉は部下たち全員に常時銃を手放さないように命じてる。
Lieutenant Angelo has ordered that his subordinates be armed at all times.
まるでここが敵地かのようだわ。
It's almost as though we're in enemy territory. That was true. The Italians were clearly the very opposite of relaxed. Japanese soldiers watching this began to suspect that the Italians didn't really trust them at all.
軍人ならおかしいことじゃないさ。
That's normal for a soldier.
むしろこういう時こそ規律を引き締めて友軍に恥ずかしいところを見せたくないんじゃないか。
This is precisely the time for them to straighten up their guard, so they don't embarrass themselves in front of a friendly army.
就寝時には必ず寝図板を立てるし、
They have a person stand watch every time they sleep.
もう航行できないスクラップ同然の潜水艦に今もあなたたちを近づけないように見張りを立てているわ。
And they're still keeping a lookout to make sure none of you approach the submarine, even though it's nothing more than an unusual scrap heap now.
私はなんだか日本人を露骨に毛嫌いしているように見えて気持ちが悪い。
It almost feels as though they're clearly prejudiced against the Japanese, and that bothers me. True, they had set up a constant sentry by the submarine and refused to let any of the Japanese soldiers come near. This hadn't made the Japanese particularly happy. I was gonna say, Beatrice says no to racism! However, submarines are treated as classified in all countries. Maybe it was just natural for them to stop foreigners from approaching it without reason.
慣れない生活を強いられてみんな気が立ってるんだろう。
They're probably uncomfortable with being made to live in a way they aren't used to.
天候と女将の都合で君たちを本土へ運ぶ船の派遣がまた遅れてる。
The boat that's supposed to take you back to the mainland is still being delayed by weather and problems up the command chain.
君たちをいつ本土へ送ってあげられるやら。
Just how long will it take before they can send you there? We've been told that a boat had been sent for them directly from the mainland, but apparently, thanks to the weather, problems up the command chain, and the recent air raids, they had no ships that they could spare on a foreign or forgotten island like this. There may have been political issues as well. After all, the Italians' homeland had been surrendered to the Allies. I didn't know the details. The only thing I knew for sure was that they'd been stuck on Rokujima for 2 whole weeks, and no one had come to get them. Of course, we had some small boats on Rokujima. There's nothing physically stopping us from taking them to a nearby island. Still, Rokujima was technically a top-secret base, and contact with the outside world had been strictly forbidden.
仕方がないし、それも悪くないわ。
Well, there's nothing we can do about it. It isn't all that bad, really.
だって船が来てしまったら金蔵とはもう会えなくなってしまうんでしょ。
After all, if a boat did come for us, probably never see you again, Kinzo. True.
確かに。
To me, those 2 weeks were the first I'd ever truly lived. The faint 20 years before all seemed to vanish in the sparkle of that pair of weeks. I realized that she'd have to leave this place eventually. And yet, the single moment felt so rich and dazzling that I felt myself wishing it could last forever. Then, I heard a voice calling for Beatrice in Italian.
アンジェロ少尉だよ。
It's Lieutenant Angelo.
君に用事みたいだ。
Looks like he wants you for something.
またお小言かしら。
Probably to scold me.
日本人とあまり親しくするなと最近うるさいのよ。
These days he keeps yapping on about how I shouldn't get too friendly with the Japanese soldiers. The second lieutenant approached, saluting Kinzo, and after glancing at Beatrice as though asking her to translate something, he began to speak in Italian. Judging by his tone, it sounded like something serious.
少尉はとても重要な話があるからあなたたちの指揮官に合わせてほしいと言ってるわ。
Lieutenant Angelo has something very important to say, so he wants to talk with your commanding officer.
協力を求めたいと言っている。
He wants your help with something.
何のことかわからないわ。
I don't know what.
重要な話。
Something important?
わかった。
Got it.
山本中尉を探そう。
I'll go find Lieutenant Yamamoto. Lieutenant Angelo had two of his subordinates with him and wore a stern expression on his face. They didn't have to say anything for us to realize that this had to be something very serious. That's it. Lift it up. The winch creaked and the thick chains rang out with a dull clang. Very, very slowly, it was lifted up out of the submarine's cargo hold.
なるほど。
Now I get it.
イタリア人どもが我々を潜水艦に近づけたがらないわけだ。
So this is why those Italians didn't want us to near their sub. I mean, is it gold? The first lieutenant and the others looked up at what the winch was slowly lifting up, all of them wearing unpleasant forced smiles. Or is it something else? Unbelievable.
これがパパの運んでいた積み荷だというの？
So this is what Papa brought all this way. All this way.
すごい。
Incredible.
こんなの生まれて初めて見た。
I've never seen anything like this. Ah, I knew it. It was a mountain of gold ingots. Those carefully piled bars were being slowly lifted out of the cargo hold, one group after another. This gold had been their true cargo. I don't know where they were planning to take it. They might have been trying to sneak it into Japan, one of their allies, or they might have been on their way to hide it in some remote area. Was it some sort of strategy? Conspiracy? Embezzlement? Top secret transportation of wealth? This incomprehensible amount of gold led to all sorts of dark suspicions, but we didn't know anything about the truth. All told, the gold weighed an incredible 10 tons. That was the only truth we could wrap our minds around at the moment. They had strongly resisted showing this to us. However, the submarine could no longer make sea, and it was apparently continuing to take in water bit by bit. Rokujima had been outfitted in an extremely slipshod way, so we had no means of repairing it. Also, that we could unload the sub, there was no way we'd be able to lift it up again once it had filled with water and sunk to the bottom. Now that transporting the gold away had clearly become an impossible goal, they'd apparently decided on unloading it. Of course, they made no effort to explain the reason behind all this gold. They just asked us to help them take it out.
なぜこんな大量の黄金を国外へ？
Why would they take so much gold out of the country?
これだけあればイタリアの戦局を変えられたかもしれないの。
Couldn't they have changed the course of the war with this much wealth?
戦局を変えるのは武器。
Weapons changed the course of war.
でも戦後は何の役にも立たない。
But after the war, they aren't useful for anything.
確かにお金も戦局を変えはするでしょう。
Money can also change the course.
戦後にもその価値は変わらないわ。
But it remains just as valuable after the war. There's no longer any way to change the course of this war. The Axis powers will probably all surrender, leading to an Allied victory. Anyone could tell that simply by looking at the American planes flying across the sky day after day. However, gold does not lose its value after war. Everyone stared upwards, dumbfounded, as the winch slowly lifted the dully sparkling gold. Ah. Dun 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 dun.
Chui.
We're gonna call it a night there. Again, massive apologies for starting kind of late tonight. But that's just the circumstance. The gold had to have come from somewhere. I know. One could say, how dare I? How dare I? But we'll hit Umineko hard next week for sure. I would say pretty standard, most likely Tuesday night, and of course next Saturday. And I don't foresee any reason why we would be starting late next Saturday for sure. So maybe we'll settle in for a nice thick long Umineko stream next Saturday. Okay. Okay. But thanks so much for watching. Thanks for hanging out for the few hours here as we start getting the explanation of Umineko happening to us. I found these last 3 hours pretty interesting. You know what? I had reservations, I would say, about. I was like, oh, what, this Will guy? I have to follow Will, and Don't Call Me Lion Leon. I was like, oh, it's gonna be a sham of an episode, and I've kind of enjoyed it. I've actually enjoyed our time so far here. It's a nice change of I don't want to say necessarily change of pace, but a change of I don't know. Put in some other word. So next one we play, like I said, Tuesday night, we'll get around to. I guess we got more of this. Clearly, we have lots of younger / older Kinzo to delve into. Everything starts with Kinzo. It must all be explained. By the way, feeling answered yet? Yeah, I know everything now. I've gotten, we're getting some things. I think at some point it's gonna burst at the seams. It's gonna be like a dam that can't hold any more water, and it'll just. Didn't the Shannon Will scream answers that? Yeah. You're right. All answers. I've gotten everything. I know everything. I know everything to the point where we should. This is the finale stream to Umineko. No more. We don't need to finish. I've got it all. It's been a great time, guys. Everyone, thank you so much for joining me on this journey. I've solved it all. I've been enlightened. No more. No, but really, thanks so much for joining. Thanks for watching. As always, greatly appreciated. Hope you enjoyed. Have a nice, can't even speak anymore. Have a nice rest of your night. Have a great rest of your weekend. Have a great Sunday. I should be back at some points tomorrow. At some point, at least. At the very least. Not going to be Umineko, obviously, but something. So, if you want to hang out for that tomorrow, go ahead and do so. If not, like I said, have a great weekend. Have a great night. Until another stream. So long.